It's the topic of this.
You can't.
This is I do that a lot. People are just like, man, just say it then.
But there are times where I can listen to another artist and their lyrics. They're not normally not in the broken type of category, but that are in their progression or not even necessarily talking about,
people are just like, oh no, but hip hop's demonic. Like all hip hop and rap is demonic.
That's a problem.
And there's a lot of reasons why I don't like that. Where everyone just wants to market themselves
in some way or another. Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous because we're not products.
But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved.
Hey guys, if you're new here, my name is Kumi, and this is a Faithful Breed podcast. This podcast exists to encourage you to serve God faithfully, no matter the circumstance, no matter the season. And today, I'm going to be having a good conversation with a good friend of mine, but we're going to have a conversation on all things concerning life, faith, and culture. And before we get into this conversation, I got to give this man across from me his proper accolades. And so I got a little list here, so I can make sure I read it verbatim because it's very special. It's a very special man. He is a one-time Chuck E. Cheese Pop a Shot champ, his mother's favorite son, an alumni from Brother Man University with a bachelor's degree in Wingman Studies, a proud product of the Show Me State. You might know him as a townsperson, number 5 from his 2016 high school theater production of Hello Dolly, a part-time visual and musical artist, and a full-time child of the Most High God. My brother, Mathew Robbins. How you doing?
What's good? What's good, baby? How we doing? You read that so eloquently and amazing. I'm ready to hop on here, man. I'm proud of all of those accomplishments.
Hey.
Of those accomplishments.
This man, legendary. Honestly, I mean, I never thought, there's a lot of things I wanted to be in my lifetime.
Okay.
I never thought until today I wanted to be a Chuck E. Cheese Pop Shot champ.
Let me tell you what, man, that was one of those like unexpected moments in your life. Sometimes, greatness is something that you prepare for, and sometimes it's thrusted upon you. Yeah. And in that moment, it was thrusted upon me. So I don't know who took the title after me. I just know that day, I was set. So I'm proud. I'm not saying my jumper's clean, but let the results speak for themselves. Check the record book. Check the record book. When they ask me, I just tell them, check the record book. So appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
No, man, that's good. So I want to, first and foremost, thank you for hopping on the potty. This has been a long time coming. I'm like, man, I need to get Mathew on this podcast. If y'all don't know, this man has probably been one of the biggest inspirations, as well as maybe just more so a motivational element in my journey in all things content creation, visual production, music. He's been part of that journey. It still is part of this journey. We got some stuff we're cooking and coming up with.
Man.
So I mean, and that being said, we're gonna spend a lot of time with that later on in the podcast, of course. But this man has just been a huge brother to walk alongside. I'm grateful for him.
Can I tell a funny story?
Go for
it. So my funny story is, I knew of Kumi for the longest time. So me and Kumi's brother Dare have been we went to the same. I mean, we all went to the same school, but Dare and I are the same year. We're on the same hall, right across from each other. And so I remember he was like, "Oh yeah, this is my brother Kumi," and I'd always see you at school, just around campus, or sitting desk at the dorm.
Yep. And
I was just like I know of him, but I don't know if he really knows of me. So it was one of those situations where it's I want to say what's up, but I feel like if I do, he's just gonna be like, "Bro, who is this?" And then what was it? Probably 2 years ago, Darius like, "Yeah, my brother's really just going hard, getting into music," and I was like, "Yo, let's meet up." And I always remember the first meetup that you and I had. We was at my apartment, in my bedroom, just trying to make beats go on, but we didn't have no furniture in there, so we just sitting on just stools and stuff, and that was a good time. And ever since, man, I'm gonna just say it now, so it can be on record. Yeah. I really feel like this guy right here. I'm gonna look at this camera. This guy right here, special guy, and I can't wait to see just in the next. I don't know, you could say a few weeks, but really a few years, just what you blossom into, man. The work ethic, first of all, this man's his voice, this is what I always say. There's certain things you can teach, there's certain things you can't. This man's voice is butter. It's butter, man. And so when it gets on the mic, it's just something special. So I really can't wait to see just all that you're doing. You're already doing a lot right now, covering a lot of ground, but it's really likewise, man, in terms of like inspiration. Just because it's cool to see people that have like a like-minded perspective of like, I want to work hard with excellency. I'm serious about the craft. I'm brave enough to kind of step out there and just try my ideas, because that's a different thing that people don't talk about. It's just like the courage it takes to actually put yourself out there. Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is also like you're a brother in Christ. Yeah. And we're both accomplishing the same goal. It might like look a little bit different in terms of like how you approach it and how I approach it, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
That's true.
And so, man, it's a pleasure to be able to be here with you, bro. For real.
Good. Nah, man. And I take that deep because, as you can see, once again, I am shaped by the people who I'm around.
Yeah.
You are one of those people in the season of life that I'm walking that has continued to shape me in that area. Because there's some days where, as someone who has that entrepreneurial mindset, someone who has this desire to, pursue, especially things like the arts, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff and I feel like this is awesome, this is fire, this is gonna be the next big thing. And then there's days where it's like, it feels like trash, and it's like, why am I even doing music in the first place?
No,
why am I even making a podcast?
Yeah,
like,
bro.
But it's so encouraging to have friends like you who are like, yo, there are times where things are actually trash and you guys aren't afraid to tell me and y'all aren't afraid to critique me. You're always, I was like, hey, you do you, but I think that it could be better. And you push me, you challenge me. I think out of that, like I said, the people around me shape me and push me and give me kind of that hope that whatever I put my mind to, right, I can achieve if I just keep pushing and keep pressing. If I would look myself back a year ago, I didn't, or even 2-3 years ago, I couldn't do all this video stuff. I didn't know how to even click and shoot on the camera, bro. I was like, what is this? Consecration looks so cool from afar, but it took me going through the ringer of learning tons of YouTube videos,
dude,
and just like seeing how other people did things and being like, okay, let me take note. I wanted to start a podcast 2 years ago. It's not coming until fruition until now, right? But it goes to show that during that time, God was really pruning me through trial and error. And I know we spoke about this before the podcast, but really giving me God's really like what he's taught. If there's one thing he's taught me over the years is to make the most of the time you have. And you brought up a motorcycle story before this podcast even started. You brought up a motorcycle story of a dude being Batman, swerving through the highways.
Man was Bruce Wayne on Sam Rayburn in Dallas. There was a Batman sighting. In the daylight. He was coming back from his 9 to 5 to start his vigilante requirements. So,
but it reminded me of a motorcycle story. That actually happened. I mean, it's not much of a story. It was just kind of a moment that happened actually on my way back. I was having a final studio session for the one song that is coming to be dropping here this summer.
Oh, can't release it now. I think it is.
Oh, HB.
Okay, yeah.
Because we're going up. We're going up.
Yeah. For sure.
We soaring.
That's confidential. And that's confidential.
Nah, man. But that being said, we were finishing our final music session, and I was feeling good. I was like, bro, this song is done. When a song gets done, there's a feeling. This is how you know that you're an artist. Is that not only do you enjoy the process, but whenever a project gets done, you're like, oh my goodness,
so much relief,
bro. It's like yes. Like, I'm so excited to go to the next step, But that being said, as I was driving home, I'm, going on, it's the narrow roads of Fort Worth. And as I'm about to approach the road that gets to the highway, I see all these cars slowing down. I'm like, what's going on? And so from a distance, I see like this little orange object. And I'm like, okay, maybe it was just some kind of like machine that like hit a car on the road. It didn't look like a car accident from afar. But then as you get closer, I saw it was motorcycle. Hence, why that was like, oh yeah, that triggered the memory. But yeah, you see like a motorcycle just completely crashed out on the road. And then everyone's kind of slowing down and surrounding the area, and cars are kind of going slow, going around it. And I'm pulling by slowly around it. And then I see someone laying on the side of the road with a helmet and just laying there, and everyone's just like surrounding. And I was like, whoa, like that would be like the second time I've seen like, actually that'd be the third. Actually, I remember because it was your birthday. There was another accident.
Oh, really?
So this would be the third time actually. There was an accident around where you had your birthday party last year. That I was driving around and people were just like, what happened? People, like, it was like 4 or 5 people in the car. They got to an accident at an intersection. It was pretty bad. But, seeing that, and I feel like every time I've seen that, And every time I see things like that,
Yeah.
they're God moments where it's like, I'm living my best life. I'm happy. Life is good.
Yeah.
Then you see what looks to seem like death, right? Right to the left in my case, because I was on the right side of the lane, but on the left, you see what is close to what looks like death, and you're humbled. Like I said earlier, like we understand that the time that we have on this earth, we can't take it for granted.
Yep.
Right. Which is why, when I decided to start this podcast, and when I had the heart 2 years ago, I think there was part of me that could blame it on me not knowing about how to do a podcast, how to make music, how to produce. I had all these I don't know how to. But the other half, I think, was apathy. Right,
Yeah.
being lazy, being like, I can do it. I think I can do it. I can figure it out. But then being more content in the place I was at, just because change requires a lot, right?
It does.
But that being said, over the years, again, God has put a burden in my heart. Again, why do I want to get into music? Because I want to impact people. I want to leave a legacy. I want people, ideally, at the end of the day, to see God in everything, whether it's art, whether it's my life, my family. My goals, I want them to see God and be pointed to Him, because I think, and I've been consistent with every podcast up to this point, our time here as Christians is to know God and to make Him known.
Yep.
Right. And so, like you said earlier, it's going to look different for each and every one of us who are on the walk with Jesus. But what I can tell you is that He's going to take us to the same end destination.
Yep.
If we're faithful.
Absolutely.
But I know that was a huge tangent.
No,
just because
that's good, bro.
I said I was going to bring up this motorcycle story because you brought it up before podcast. But I know I just want to get this conversation before I even get into that. You travel a lot for work.
I do.
This man. So the end of his accreditation was someone who has a career in visual arts and also music arts. But you do travel for your visual.
I travel.
Yeah, a lot. So where's the last place you visited?
I just got back from Nashville. I think this is the hard part. I don't even want to I don't even tell a lot of my friends where I travel at this point, because when I text them, it's just like, I hate you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It's part of my job. Cause they're just like, you get to travel for fun, and I'm over here stuck in, I'm not going to say where, because then that specific person, I'm talking about them, but they know who they are. It's out of love though. But I was in Nashville for a few days. And then right before that, I was in New York. And right before that, I was in Hawaii. So my travel season's been picking up a little bit. And at the end of last year, it got really crazy. But it's cool to be able to travel to different places. And you're able to actually see the different scenes and see what the different cultures have to offer. And just I do believe every American city is kind of the same in terms of infrastructure. Major cities, you go to Chicago and you go to New York. Now, I'm not from either one of those places, so anyone from those places is going to be the completely different cities. Yes, but it's when I look at the infrastructure in terms of just how the highways are set up, you have skyscrapers, you have a bunch of people that have to go to work super early, mass transit, all of these things are a part of American culture. So it's cool to see there's overlap, there's the commonality there, but they also have their separate way about going about things, or just the people there operate differently. And I think that's kind of the cool thing I like about being able to travel. You get to see the different flavors, but you also get to see how we're all kind of the same at the same time.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, man,
That's good, man.
It's a blessing though. It's a blessing. It's just hard when you travel a lot. Just to be able to I'm grateful that I have a great community of friends and church community. A great family that I always stay connected with, but at the same time, it's still just difficult to maintain those relationships when you're just constantly on the go, especially in heavy travel seasons where it's 1 week you're here, next week you're there, other week you're there. But the way I see it is I'm 24 and I'm single, you know what I'm saying? So it's I don't got no kids, I got no family. Let me travel now.
100%,
before then, I really saw it as kind of not necessarily a disadvantage, but I was just man, again, when you travel, it's just hard to build a routine. But I was man, let me do it now while I have energy before my energy's taken, or before I'm in a different season. So it's been a blessing, man.
No,
but it's all about the perspective shift,
Yeah.
So I'm glad that the Lord gave me that, because it's bro, people do not get to travel for their jobs like that and be able to go and shoot videos. You know what I'm saying?
Dude.
You better be grateful. So So I'm grateful now. I'm grateful now.
That's good. I think it's why you travel that matters, right?
Yes.
And if you're, and we talk about, you actually have a passion for video production as well, and all that kind of stuff. So I could see someone doing that who doesn't have as much of a passion as you do. Traveling in general is, it takes time. It's a commitment.
Yeah,
it's mentally got prepared to travel, get on the plane, pack your bags. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I would enjoy it too. I love traveling, 100%. But again, it would be nice if it's attached to something I like doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Otherwise, it might feel more of a stressor because I work sales. And so I was driving pretty much around all of, it feels like Texas.
Yeah.
Like often. And I can tell you, I got tired.
Yeah.
I got mad tired.
And that's a scary thing to do when you're driving, too. We don't want you getting tired and driving.
Yeah. But I mean, plenty of great experiences. I'm not putting it down, obviously, but it was definitely taxing on like the body, and it's been taxing. But definitely finding those more like remote positions, just being able to, do my sales. I can do my sales thing, but be at home and sip my
controlled
coffee.
environment. I feel you, dude. No, I feel you. I think it's hard for me. I think traveling's hard for me just because like I'm not a homebody per se.
Yeah.
But like I don't get a high off of traveling like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person where it's like, oh man, this is really cool for like 1 or 2 days, and then I'm like, I would like to be back.
Yeah.
At my apartment, like on my couch, like
just
taking a nap.
Taking it easy.
I'm a simple dude, really. I'm a simple
good.
dude.
That's
but
good,
yeah, man.
All right, let's get into this conversation.
Let's dive in.
That was a great introduction, but now we got to really get into this. And like I ask pretty much every guest on this podcast, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, to the viewership. Let them know a bit about who Mathew is.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, it's...
Okay, but it's Mathew with 1 T.
That's facts, though.
Wait, hold up.
What?
Did it say the Mathew with 1 T?
It did.
It did.
I
okay.
heard it.
Okay, making sure you heard it. Okay.
I heard it.
I'm gonna make sure
I heard it, bro.
it's Mathew with
With
1
1
T.
T. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's the first thing to know. My mom named me with 1 T because she just wanted me to be unique, I guess. And then as time's gone on, like I've met more people with 1 T. Like literally up until probably the age of like 19, I was like, I'm the only Mathew with 1 T. And then I moved to different places. Actually, no, I don't even think it was. I think it was I was 22 when I realized, no, there's actually other people out here. So I instantly felt a lot less special, but it's all good. But nah, I mean, stuff to know about me. I think the biggest thing to know about me, again, is like, I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a Christian. And that's the first and foremost thing I would want someone to know about me. Just because that's what's utmost importance in my walk. It's cool to like, be able to, do music, shoot videos, be a nice person. And there's a lot of times in my life where I was just like trying to be cool with everybody and trying to be nice. That's great. But like, I can't say that doesn't accomplish anything, but you can be a nice person and you can try to be friendly with everyone, but it's really self-serving because you just want to be popular or you just want to be relevant. And that's a lot of my story, actually, a lot of my testimony. We won't go fully into my testimony, but I grew up in like rural Missouri. And so outside of me and maybe like a handful of other kids, like I was basically the only kid of color and like maybe 3 other people in my grade, like in my school for a long time.
Wow.
And so that caused just like a lot of identity issues of just like, I don't feel like I fit in. So I constantly be trying my hardest to just be loved and liked by everybody, be cool with everybody. And kind of be a bit of a chameleon and just be like, I can be cool with the cool kids, with the sporty kids, with the kids like that just, we be kicking it about like nerding over like, Team Mutant Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, all that stuff. And I think the Lord redeemed that for me to be able to, I don't know if I want to say like be like Paul and be all thanks to all people, but to be able to know how to like, relate to different groups of people.
Navigate. Yeah.
But yeah, I think a big struggle for me growing up was just wanting to be accepted by everybody. So the Lord really like saved me from that and matured me from that kind of just around middle school to make me realize like, God created me as I am. Of course, I'm flawed, but like He loves me as I am, and I don't have to be anyone different. And so when I realized that, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I don't have to keep putting on this mask every single day. And so each day as I, try to walk and look more like Christ, I get formed more into His likeness, and that is the only identity that I need to become per se. I don't have to be like, I don't have to be that cool guy or that guy that everyone likes just so I can feel like I belong. But yeah, I mean, things to know about me. I love big dogs. I don't know why I'm saying that. I love big dogs. Like I love me some Great Pyrenees, German
He's got
Shepherds,
that
St.
dog in him.
Yeah, I got careful. I don't know
he
what
might
you
bite.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by that, bro. But yeah, I love dogs. I'm a very big New York Giants fan. Very big New York Giants fan. Even though at the recording of this podcast, it's not looking too great right now. But we're not going to talk about sports. That's not what we came here to do.
Do y'all still have Saquon Barkley?
No, we lost Saquon to the Eagles. Moving on. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that.
Right. Continue.
But I think another thing to know about me is I love good music. So I really like music that tells a story. I love music that has soul to it. And so I really tend to gravitate towards older music. So I'm not the type of person that's just like, oh, I'm about to go listen to like some Simon and Garfunkel. I don't listen to them. I've actually never listened to them. So I'm not like those type of people where they try to be like super vintage and hipster.
Yeah.
But it's like I have a genuine appreciation ever since like a young age. I feel like I have the same soul as my Uncle Albert, where he loves him some like Earth, Wind and Fire.
Come
and
on
some
now.
Stevie.
Yes,
and some Al
sir.
Green.
Yes, sir.
But I really love R&B as well. And so just being able to pull from some older influences, just because, not to hate on nowadays music, and I'm sure we might get into this a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I think music, if we hop back in a time machine and go back maybe 50 years, I think there was just a little bit more intentionality lyrically, or just like what message is trying to be told. Like if we look broadly, and also like you have people that come from like a rich musical history or a rich musical background.
Yeah.
And so they're able to, like, again, Stevie Wonder is a very, very rare occurrence, like a generational, talent. But I look at someone like him and just like the depth of knowledge that he has to be able to communicate his ideas and his feelings, like melodically, but also lyrically. And of course it's not just Stevie doing everything, but in many cases it is also Stevie doing a lot.
Big talented.
Yeah, I just love good music that tells a good story. And that's also like redemptive, some people would define good music as like whatever's popular or whatever's hot, or like, bro, that beat's banging. But it's like, yeah, but he talking about doing some things that I can't rock with,
For real, yeah.
And so there's a clear delineation for me in that, in the sense of like, once I feel like we really starting to get into the stuff that I can't rock with, it's not good music to me anymore. Like, I can't justify it just because it sounds good necessarily. It's also like, what is good? Like, if I can make a recommendation to anyone watching this podcast, go listen to Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. You're welcome.
There you go.
Great, one of my favorite albums of all time. But that's what I'm talking about. When you can get that, add it to the playlist. When you can get that mixture between great storytelling, great production, and just, great vocals, and just, like it's a match made in heaven. So,
good.
Yeah, and then is there anything else you want to know about? Oh, this is the last thing I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I don't need to put Missouri on the map because it's on the map already. But a lot of people aren't proud to be from Missouri. I mean, people from Missouri, and unless they're from Kansas City or St. Louis, you better embrace your home state. You better let them know I'm from the Show Me State. And I'm not ashamed of it. Technically, I wasn't born there, but I lived there since I was like 6 to 18. So that was like basically my whole childhood.
Yeah.
So like, I'm unashamed to be from the Show Me State. I'm unashamed to be from a small town.
That's good.
People be trying to act like, no. Like, nah. That's how you grew up. I mean, it made me the person I am. So
That's true.
Proud Show Me Stater. If you're from Missouri, let them know. Show the Mo State some love. That's all I got to say.
You are now my second guest who is from Missouri.
Were they proud to be from Missouri?
They were proud.
Really?
I think where they kind of took it though is like, not everywhere Missouri is, the best place to live type energy, because there's some, I've been to St. Louis,
Yeah, St. Louis is its own animal.
Yeah, it's its own animal. I said there's beautiful buildings, architecture, the arch dope, like 100 have been up that thing, is super cool. But there's depending on where you are in St. Louis, things can get heavy, can get tough, but I mean, it's still a great city. It's a music city too. So that's what some people don't recognize,
Were they from St. Louis?
A lot of musicians, there's musicians,
Well, but the person you were talking to, were they from St.
Oh,
Louis?
yeah, I believe she was from St. Louis.
Oh, okay, cool.
She said she was from St. Louis, yeah.
You're going to have to connect.
Gotta
show them love.
And she'll get along with you real well, brother.
Okay.
She's a very friendly person. Let's say that at least. But that being said, is there anything else that you want to share that you think that the audience needs to know about you?
2 things, not even that they need to know about me. Love you, Mom. Love you, Erica. Boom. All right. Erica's my sister. So just in case. But that's my
plug.
That's my sister. Actually, that producer tag you heard, that's Erica. So we wouldn't have that without you. So thank you, sister.
We got to get it one
Give
more
it
time.
one more time.
Hold up.
Okay, but it's Mathew with 1 T.
Just wait till the royalty checks come in.
She
She gonna be getting that bread. She gonna be getting that bread.
Oh my goodness, yo! I'm gonna get strikes for playing this
Copyrights,
this man's music on stream, bro. Oh man, but there's more to come. We're hopefully gonna get to that here soon. But no, thank you, brother. Let's get into this conversation with music though, because I mean you've kind of opened the can of worms a little bit when it comes to music, because music is such a powerful element in the world we live in. It's been that way for centuries. And it's I think as a Christian believer, we know all things come from God, right? He's the creator of all things, and I find music to be just one of those avenues that of beauty, right? Because the Bible talks about it, you know. When we get to heaven, all we're gonna be singing is holy, 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 you know, and you're gonna hear trumpets when he comes back, you know. So it's like music is so ingrained and imbued in every single aspect of our lives in Scripture, and so I wanted to really just, as an artist, right, get your perspective on, like, first and foremost, let's just start with America, the Western society, America, good old America, where the society is today, how the trend of music is right now. The good, the bad, the ugly. So kind of just speak your mind, because I want to get your perspective on it.
You don't, do you? Okay, so a little preface. Kumi and I have had conversations about, and it's not like we have diametrically opposed opinions.
No.
I just feel like when I talk to Kumi and like he'll hit me back with like, oh, that's a good point. And then I'm like, I feel like I sound like I'm a purist. You know what I'm saying? That's what I feel like I sound like, where I'm just like, it has to be this way if it's not like this. And then, I mean, how do I view the music industry right now, or just the state of music?
Yeah.
You know, so here's the thing, actually. I don't know why I'm going to go here, but I am. So I was listening to a particular album. I'm not going to necessarily name the artist just because I don't want to feel like I'm throwing shots at them. But, I mean, very popular female R&B artist released the album about 1.5 years ago. I think that's good. That's a good enough indicator. I'll let you dig from there. And I never listened to it, right? I never listened to it just because I was like, I don't want to right now, you know? And so like, I just didn't get around to the album. But usually I'll try to play an album all the way through and try to get the full story. So I was listening to her album on a flight back from a shoot, actually. And so I was like, let me actually sit down and try to hear what she's saying. And so I was like, okay, production-wise, kind of what I expected. Not in a bad way. It's still good, but I'm like, okay, it's kind of what I expected. But the thing that really struck me was like the content. And I kind of want, for some reason, I want to go here first. And so when I was listening to it, there's this element that I'm starting to see in kind of in all popular music, in a secular aspect. And again, I'm not a big fan of splitting up music between like secular and Christian. Excuse me, because you have to edit that burp out. So let me restate it.
You're good.
So I'm not a huge fan of like splitting up music between like it's Christian or it's secular. Like those divisions exist, but I kind of see it more as like there is good music and there is bad music. And what I mean by that is, and there's neutral music, I guess, you know, some people say too. But like I do think there's music that's not like explicitly Christian that is good music. Like I said, like, again, Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder is not a Christian album. You know, he has a song on there that you know, if you feel life's too hard, go have a talk with God. Like, that's a great song. And it's a great concept, you know, and so there's that spiritual aspect there, but it's not an explicitly Christian album. But I still think it's a good album, and there's a lot of good like aspects and virtues in that. Whereas also I feel like in the quote unquote like CCM space of popular Christian music, you have, and I'm not trying to hate on like Christian radio necessarily, but you do have certain tracks that are just like super fluff, and it's really not built off of any biblical principle. It's more of just built off of like, okay, what's safe, what's super duper positive, and what do like people want to hear, and it doesn't necessarily like address God or anything like that. A lot of times I realize it's actually more about like you, and more of just like trying to get like that breakthrough type deal. And not that that doesn't exist, but like I've realized like just because it's quote unquote labeled as Christian doesn't necessarily mean like, is it really like talking about God and glorifying him, or is it more just like a positive self-motivational thing to listen to? And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, if that's what you want to do, I would tag it as inspirational. I don't know if I would tag it as Christian or worship, but anyway. So, you know, not having those, you know, how I feel about that, but so in the particular like non-Christian like explicitly secular venue. I'm starting to see like this. It's almost like people are like kind of bleeding out a lot of their hurt in their music. When I was listening to her album, I was like, man, like talented vocalist, like beautiful vocals. But I was like, a lot of the stuff you're telling me, I feel like you should go tell your friend this. Like, do you have a friend that you can go and express this to? And clearly, like, I am not a born and bred musician, like from birth. I'm not like deep in the music industry. So obviously there's a lot of things going on in the background. And I want to give a lot of grace to artists just because like they have a lot of voices in their ear trying to tell them who to be, what to do. Yeah. And so I'm sure it's also, again, if you're touring on the road, or if you're just like constantly like, I don't want to say a slave to the label, but like in some aspects, trying to make whatever project, like I'm sure there's a lot of isolation there. And so it just makes me question, like, are you good? Like, are you good, fam? Yeah. That's when I was listening to it, I can sum it up like, are you good, fam? Because you saying this makes me concerned for you. It doesn't make me feel like this is what I need to hear. It was more of like, I'm concerned for the people or the person that's writing this, you know? Yeah. And so I think that's maybe kind of the ugly side is like, I think there's a lot of pain and hurt in music, which is, I'm happy that people are willing to be vulnerable, but it just makes me concerned that this has kind of become the new normal of like people just, and not that music's not a safe space for you to express how you feel. 100%. Of course, because I think there's also a really good cathartic sense in music to be able to express and like lament. Yeah. But there's a difference between like lamenting something sad and it's like, no, there's some clear brokenness in your life. And there's a lot of broken cycles here that I think you can see, but like, you're not willing to change that, or you don't necessarily see it as a problem. That's where I'm just like, I'm concerned because then we pimp this out to the masses, and like, you know, I know someone that's very young. Actually, I was talking to them, and their child's very young, and they were telling me like, oh yeah, like he's really young, but he listens to like Juice WRLD, and he listens to like X and like all these people, and I'm just like, yo, I wouldn't promote that to like people my age, but like to be very young and influenced by that type of music just makes me concerned because I feel like we're putting like super, super heavy burdens on the youth that like when I was in middle school, fam, like I was legitimately worried about like, can I touch rim? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like that was my biggest concern. Can I touch rim? I'm not trying to touch net. I'm trying to touch rim.
I want to dunk.
But I mean, and not to say middle school people aren't struggling, because I mean, middle school is a hard time. But like I don't know, like kids are just I feel like being exposed to super, super dark things and deep things that exist. But like, how about we don't introduce them to that yet? You know what I'm saying? Or not like isolate them, but you
have a good point. And I want to chime in on that because, like you said, I think the expression goes, loneliness likes company, right? Yeah. And I think when you're a kid and you're growing up, you go through tons of emotions with puberty, teenage right? Angst. You know, especially when you hit teenage as a teenager. And I have a little sibling who's a teenager, one that's about to be a teenager. Yeah. And I know the amount of emotions that they go through on a daily basis. And so when they hit those low points and they find music, because we're specifically talking about music, that caters to how they feel, right? Because they are personally and by themselves trying to process how they're feeling. And they find music that glorifies it, but somehow they find a way that it's sympathizing with how they feel in a sense, kind of, contort it to make it feel like it's a sympathizing element to how they feel. For sure. Therefore, now that becomes the music that they prefer to listen to versus the music that we would expect to actually help lead towards a solution from how they're feeling. And I think what you spoke to earlier about how you don't like just breaking up music, secular and Christian, because I agree. It's more than just the label. Because I think music has different goals. Yeah, it depends on the person who's writing it, the person who's putting it out. Like you said, we don't need a lot of broken people writing broken music, putting it out there, because heck, that's how you have, especially like in the Black community, when you have a lot of people who do like gangster rap or which I think I can respect artists who can tell a good story about how their upbringing was, but where they lose me is when there's no progression of change from how they started to where they are now, right? And that's where I classify, if I were to make a category, it'd be like broken music. That the person who's making this music is in a place, but like you says, refuses to change, right? And then there's music, I would say, as another category of progression, right? Consciousness, where it's like, it's not uber spiritual, obviously, because I think my personal opinion that at some point in a person's life, all roads are leading to who God is.
Yeah.
It says in the Bible that creation, shows us and reveals to us who God is.
Yeah.
And I think every single human being from when they're born on this earth is on this timeline of figuring out and understanding and accepting the revelation of God.
Yeah.
Right. Some people obviously were given the choice, right, to choose whether to accept him or not. And even though he's there, I think when I look at music, I typically break it down to those three: people who are just content in that brokenness, people who are searching, and then people who have arrived and are just flourishing and promoting and walking in what I would call that freedom and joy that only God brings, that only Jesus brings, right? So I think there's levels to it when I break it down in that niche of like progression of music, and we have a lot I think in our Western society of that broken music. And when you have a younger generation who and a growing population of children who we know are emotional creatures as they grow. Most people are very emotional growing up, and they find broken music that sympathizes with how they feel, because, like you said, out of brokenness comes from the state of man. State of man is filled with different emotions, right? And so there's nothing wrong with expressing it, like you said, but there's something wrong if that emotion is all you're feeling, is what you're constantly feeling. And it's gotten even to the point where, unfortunately, in the Western society with capitalism and whatnot, we market this brokenness as a product. Right?
That's the problem.
And that's where it gets evil and turns dark, right? But it sells because sin is tempting. What the world offers is not something that's just it's not something that's not what we crave and desire. And so, but I just wanted to really expand on that point, because it's a really good point you made. When we talk about people because I have a lot of friends who really I only listen to Christian music, not secular music. Right. And I challenge them. I don't, and I'm not saying for those of y'all who listen to only Christian music, I think, hey, if that's your niche, keep listening to it. That's awesome. Most of my stuff is quote unquote Christian music that I listen to because I understand it's more encouraging. But there are times where I can listen to another artist and their lyrics. They're not normally not in the broken type of category, but that are in their progression or not even necessarily talking about bad things. Right. But not also necessarily what you would say music. There's like music to the church and music from the church, right? So it's not necessarily stuff that's promoting bad things, right? It's promoting good things, but in a healthy understanding of how you should understand, how to approach your perspective on these things. Nothing excessive, nothing debaucherous, but it's just saying, for example, if you're married and you want to create a love song about your wife, right? That's okay.
Dive in there,
That's okay. Honestly, like Solomon did it.
He for sure did it. They don't be teaching Song of Solomon in youth group. They be skipping past that chapter. They say, no,
honestly,
nope, y'all gonna have to wait. Put that on
that's
your
what
own.
I'm saying. So, I think we have to be able to take music and really break it down when it comes to what is edifying to your spirit as a Christian and what is not edifying. What's pushing you, what's maybe elevating you, pushing you in your craft. If you are a musician, you are an artist, and what is at the end of the day doing nothing for you, just to get the vibe, just to get the feeling. Because maybe, like you said, it's tough for me because I am a producer, and so when we talk about the Beat Boys, I fall into that category. I sometimes fall, I'm guilty as charged. But that being said, because I take lyrics aside, because I think lyrics bring a level and a layer to music. That's obviously that gives it direction. I think music in and of itself, when you make a beat and put it together, it's its own entity. For sure. When the artist says, okay, I'm going to hop on this and I'm going to speak, that's where now it becomes directed towards whether something good or something bad, something edifying, something that breaks you down, degrades you. So I think, that's kind of where, having done and created music and listened to tons of songs and beats, and someone who uses sometimes the sounds to like learn and elevate my own sound. For sure. Not everyone can do that. I think there's a maturity that you have to have But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here on record and say, or justify, hey, a beat separated from the vocals, you can redeem, it's not the whole concept of redeeming. It's just more so, are you able to take in taking the good and discard the bad?
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of how I approach when it comes to listening to other music and whatnot. But I'm gonna let you get back to what you were saying on.
I had an idea. I don't know if I should say it because I think it's gonna upset some people.
Go ahead, upset some people.
I'm not. You know what? I'm not throwing shots at anyone in particular. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna have to skip past it. It's just the top. It's the topic of this.
You can't.
This is I do that a lot. People are just like, man, just say it then. I don't like. And I don't know if you've ever heard this when people are just like, oh no, but hip hop's demonic. Like all hip hop, rap
that's
is
a
demonic.
problem. That's a problem.
And there's a lot of reasons why I don't like that.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe because I rap. Anyway, there could be some personal bias there. I'm willing to admit that. But no, like this is the core reason why I don't like that ideology, is because, first of all, like then what isn't? And the reason why I ask that is because if your argument is that hip hop is demonic, but contemporary worship, from a sonic perspective, isn't. Because when people say that, it's just like, okay, there's a lot of layers to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like, I'm gonna need you to break down what you mean by that. Are you talking like lyrically? Are you talking as a genre? Are you talking, again, like sonically in terms of like the different instrumentation that's used? Like, what do you mean by that is kind of my follow-up question. But typically, people just mean the whole package deal. And so the reason why I say like, okay, if you're saying that about hip hop, then what about contemporary worship? Because a lot of contemporary worship is really rock music. Like it's kind of like a soft rock feel.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about rock music then. Like let's go back a little bit. Like
he's coming for some heads now.
I'm not like I'm just saying like it's one of those things. It's a slippery slope. Like if you're gonna say that, then we gotta apply that to other genres too.
That's true.
Another reason why I don't like that is just because like if I'm honest. I feel like because hip hop is a predominantly black space.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people do, because it's just the way American culture is, associate black with evil or with bad. You know what I'm saying? And it makes me mad because it's just like, just because it's a genre that maybe isn't necessarily accepted by the masses, or it's a genre, actually that's not true, because hip hop is the most popular genre. What I mean by that is like the culture that's in hip hop isn't necessarily a culture that everyone's familiar with or is comfortable with. So instantly, the moment that they're like, that's not something I'm familiar with or that like sits well with me, there's something has to be wrong with that. When it's just like, no, that might not be your jam. Now, we can make the argument that in all genres there's demonic things, just like in like, so just because horror movies are made or just like visually explicit content is made, are we gonna say like all video is bad just because something is shot in 24 frames per second, it is automatically evil? Like no, because it's like, again, people willing to say that about music, but given the fact that like I got my degree in film and I'm in video production, I'm like, okay, you can say that about music, but what about the TV shows you watch? What about that Netflix show you watch and that you know you should like? And I'm not trying to come at people like, because I struggle too. I'm not trying to like stone throw. I'm just saying like, if we're gonna apply it on this one thing, we gotta apply it across the board. And we all have our things that we pick and choose. I have my things I pick and choose. Like I'm not perfect, but like that's one thing about music in specific that I don't like, when people just make it like this particular genre of music is evil, because I feel like, again, I gotta make the argument that God is a diverse God. If we look at Revelation 7:9, when he talks about all tribes, all tongues, all nations, so we know that God is a God that wants to redeem many people. There's a quote that I think it comes from, I might be loosely quoting Eric Mason on this from a study, but he said God wants to make a people out of all people, you know? And so like when I believe music is a gift from God. I believe language is a gift from God. If you catch me on the street, I would love to talk. Language blows my mind. Like the fact that I can make sounds and you can understand anyway.
It's good.
But like I think God can be glorified in many different ways. And in musically, I feel like God can be glorified in contemporary worship, in rock, in EDM, in hip hop, in R&B. And give me another genre, Kentucky bluegrass, country. Like God can be glorified in all these ways. So when I feel like you say, no, this one genre because the beat hits too hard, the 808 hits too hard, it can't be right. Like nah, like because that 808 hitting too hard for you might hit just right for someone else, and they're able to get the gospel through that. That's why I don't like that, because it's like we're starting to set up all these fences and limitations, and certain people aren't able to be reached. When in reality, it's like if you view this as like, no, this is a ministry tool that could really like reach people.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I don't like it, because it's just like, man, like I believe God is so expansive and so great and so good that He can speak in like a myriad of different ways. So it's not in so much that I feel like I'm personally attacked or I want to be like, let me tell you why you're wrong. But it's like, I feel like if you do that, you start to limit your perspective of how God can move. And that's one thing I've learned as I get older. Again, I feel like every time I try to, like, I think I have God figured out in a sense where it's like, okay, I'm starting to figure this out a little bit. God will, let me show you why you're wrong here, you know? And it's just like,
100%.
yeah, and I just grow to realize God is a lot bigger than what I think He is.
Yes. So where do you think that comes from? I want to press you on that, because I think how I process a lot of these kind of questions that are nuanced.
Okay.
Gray area, if you want to use that phrase,
Yeah.
but are very nuanced in essence.
Okay.
Why do you think people have this type of music is bad?
Yeah, sure.
But this one is acceptable. Where do you think that comes from a lot of maybe older people per se?
Yeah.
Especially in the church, when we talk about the church and what we deem as like acceptable music. Because heck, I'm on Instagram or on a TikTok, and you know, you have a Christian artist who's making, you know, maybe some hip hop music, or pop music or whatever it is. You know, it has a bit too much 808 in there, right? A bit too much bass.
Not too much 808.
Too much
808 is
too many
distorted.
snares, too many hi-hat rolls, you know. And apparently it's like, is this really worshiping Jesus? You know, right? So it's like, where do you think that comes from?
Yeah.
For most Christians. Let's speak specifically to the Christian
Specifically
population.
to Christians, I feel like, and I want to give like grace in this area. I don't necessarily want to act like I have all the answers I have figured out, like, because I think it's easier to seem holier than thou. I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think it comes down to experience. Like, if you grow up listening to a certain type of music, you're going to be more comfortable with that type of music because that's just what you're used to. So it's normal for humans when we're put in a situation where we don't know how to react to feel defensive. Like, I feel like that's a natural reflex, and there's grace in that.
Yeah.
I just feel like when we instantly want to externalize like a personal opinion without like really just kind of processing it or just kind of going purely off of like emotion, that's just when I feel like we get dangerous, because then it's just like, well, like, has that thought really been processed before, like, we, you know, express that? Because then, like, to someone like me, that could actually like really hurt my feelings, because it's like, again, hip hop's also like culture to people too. Music's also culture to people too. So a lot of times it's like, again, like, people, like, literally, if you think about it, will go to concerts and gather together who don't know themselves at all over one thing. Yeah. So music creates community, it creates culture, it creates environments. Yeah. So a lot of times, like, it is also like when you say, hey, like, I hate this type of music or this music's wrong, like, it feels like a personal attack, because it's just like, this means something to me, you know? Yeah. And so, like, in terms of like wanting to have, I feel like, a good public witness as believers, I think it's good to speak out again against stuff where it's just like, okay, yeah, this isn't holy. You know, I'm not saying pipe down when stuff isn't holy, but I'm saying, like, let's be cognizant of the people that we're around when we express this, because it might alienate them and make them feel like they're the other. So where it comes from, I think it comes from experience. And I think that's okay, because there's things that I'm uncomfortable with. There's certain, like, when heavy metal comes on, like, I tense up, you know? Because it's just like, bro, what is going on? But I know there's Christian heavy metals, man. And it's just like,
I know.
And it's just
100%.
like, is this holy? But it's just like, again, just because it doesn't speak to me doesn't mean it's not speaking to someone.
You know, funny thing about that, we literally yesterday, today's Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So yesterday, we were having this same conversation, and my buddy put on a Christian heavy metal song. And we were sitting there like, I was sitting there like, man, I can't make out half the words he's saying. But I mean, somewhere there's like, you know, he's saying Jesus, you know, so it's like, man, like, you know, is this glorifying God? You know, I can understand why people have that, you know, that first thought, because it's not what, like you said, something that we're accustomed to, that we're used to. Right, what we grow up used to, we tend to gravitate towards. 100%. Right, if you grew up listening to or opening books in church and reading hymns, like, okay, that's probably what you're used to, right? And to give you a funny story, we had a worship night a month ago, and the first track was like a techno hip hop rock type mix. And mind you, we had a lot of older people that came. And it was the funniest thing because I wasn't the one who selected the song.
Okay.
I'm typically just like as long as it's glorifying Jesus.
Right.
I'm on board, you know. I'm like I said, I'm a connoisseur of music. I love music.
Not the connoisseur.
Like, I'm a connoisseur. Even genre-wise, like heavy metal doesn't make me irk. I actually just more so am fascinated with the instruments, the use of guitars, the use of like, and so like every genre has just this cool element to it that I love. Just again, they call me the genre bender for a reason.
He is the genre bender. This is an actual fact.
I every style of music just has something that I think is just such a cool sound.
Yeah.
And I can implement that. I can use that, obviously, to glorify God and whatnot in my own crafts. But that being said, it just goes to showing why I've developed this idea that music in of itself, without lyrics specifically, when I talk about music, the sounds of electric guitar playing, a trumpet playing, a bass playing, right? Like all these elements of music are all from God. They're all good things, right? And I think when we get to a genre specific, like this glorifies God and this doesn't glorify God, I think there's a problem there. Because I think that more so comes from the culture that is preceded from it, that we're putting on the music, our perception of culture, right? When you hear hip hop music, what do you think of? You know, black people and gangster culture, like, and that's wicked and evil, what they promote, drugs and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think we're taking the stereotypes of these genres, putting it on music. I think rock, I think, Satan and devil worshipers and, you're like, no. Like, just no.
And it's like, I mean, that exists.
It exists.
But it's not everything.
Exactly.
And again, like it was kind of like what you were saying. And I almost want to harp on it a little bit more, but not too much. Just because I also don't want to like overspeak like I'm an aficionado. But like, again, I think the thing that bothers me is truly also like, I do feel like it's a bit of a race thing, specifically with the hip hop thing. Because I do think... Again, like it makes me think of the doll test. You ever heard of the doll test? So I forgot when this happened, but this happened like I can see the black and white photo in my mind. But I would like to say it was back in the 1960s. There was a test done where they brought in a bunch of like very young children, right? And so they had a black doll and they had a white doll, and so they had kids of I think they were just black kids and white kids pick like which doll is good and which doll is bad, and just because of how culture at that time, but even up to this moment. Perceives and perpetuates like black stereotypes. Like even the black children would be like, they would choose the white doll as the good doll and the black doll as the bad doll. And so we don't realize that, and we grow up and we become adults. Yeah. And it's just like certain things that are more culturally, synonymous, if that's the right word, or just attached to the black community. Again, I feel like it gets labeled as bad because that's how the majority culture sees it. And I'm not trying to like make this a race debate. It's just like I see that. I see people say that, and I'm like, also like, I don't feel like you understand the implications of what that means as like a black person or as a person of color, like how that makes me feel. Because it makes me feel like anything that like black culture is attached to is like you instantly think something's wrong with that, 100%. Or like you feel like it needs to be like watered down. And again, I'm not gonna unravel that thread today. But it's just something that like it hurts my feelings because it's just like now I feel like I don't belong. No, and I hear that. I instantly shut down.
I know, I hear that.
It's like
I hear that, and I think that's something that. And to finish up the story that I started with, the whole worship night and us doing like a song that was not what honestly our church is normally used to doing, right? It's one thing for you to do that, and people are just like, okay, first and foremost, when it's a worship night of all things, and we're probably used to like that deep worship, so like I surrender all, very like super simple, super simple, but very like deep and like, but then you do something that's super like maybe a little more upbeat. It's got a kick, bass is strumming, guitars are going hard, but you're glorifying God in it. And I remember after that worship night, even just a couple of days ago, one of the church members came up to me and was like, "That first song that you did, you were the one that sang that song, right?" I'm like. Yes, sir, I did. And swear it with a badge of honor because there's moments where people feel awkward. It's like, oh yeah, I was the one that did that. But he was like, it's not the type of music that I'm used to. I don't listen down on a daily basis. Yeah. But when you sang it and how you sang it, like the passion and the genuineness of what you sang really touched me.
That's dope.
Like, and that's just, this is why it's hard for me to see it any different. But that music in and of itself, regardless of the genre, regardless of what you're used to or not, still has the power to touch people.
100%.
When you look past the element of, first and foremost, what is preconceived, what you're used to, what your experience has been, right? But really tap into, why is the person singing the song? What is he saying and what is he trying to convey? And does my spirit once again feel edified, or does it feel like there's things being taken away from it, right? And so that's again why I've developed my mode of thought, and I'm not saying it's the right way of thought.
Yeah.
I'm always growing. I'm always humble too, bro. Right. So, I, again, to kind of just hammer it on the head, it's like we need to, as a church, as Christians, be careful not to jump the gun when someone makes a beat, a trap beat, and it's
Not the trap beat.
not the trap
What
beat,
the trap beat?
not the trap beat.
You better turn that off, boy. Turn off that trap beat.
But if they are
Better put some sense and some pad layers on.
some pads in that, make it sound holy. No, 100%. But you really want to make sure that you're not, jumping the gun just because you hear things that you're not used to.
Yeah.
And start associating stereotypes with it.
Yeah.
Right. When we talk about, I know we lightly touched on it, but when you think about racist ideology and things of that nature, right, a lot of that comes from the things you perceive
100%
about another race or another people, right? Growing up, bro, I grew up. Are we gonna get myself canceled today? We'll see. All
right.
But I grew up probably in the
Canceled Russian roulette.
Okay, rest
Let's
of
see.
the podcast ends here. No, pretty much. No, but I grew up in a very cultural school.
Okay.
Right. So racist jokes and things like that to me were common. It was like every day, right? You had the Latinos, blacks, whites, everyone, just Indians, Asians come together in a mesh pot.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I was blessed when you talk about, you growing up as the, only like very few black people in your specific neighborhood. Very few. I think same thing in that same way. I was blessed with learning how to adapt with different cultures, different people, different backgrounds. Have I probably ran into some racist people in my path? Probably. Yep. But because I'm so used to, regardless of your ideological beliefs, I'm not going to, first of all, reciprocate that.
Yeah.
Right? Because as Christians, we reciprocate love, not hate. But number two, I take a second to think that I don't want to, I'm an optimist. I don't want to put a pessimistic viewpoint on someone I don't even know.
Yeah, for sure.
Without getting to know them.
Great
at least,
point,
at the very
dude.
least. And so I think that's something to be said to what you're speaking about. And when we tie that to music, it's like, don't take perception and then make it reality.
Yeah.
Experience it, truly understand it. And I know when you're dealing with media and social media, that can be tough because everyone wants to say something, or everyone wants to be a
Hot
keyboard
button
warrior
topics.
and say their point about whether it's satanic or godly. But I think when you can just sit there and be like, okay, what is he saying? What is his heart? Because some artists, I think a lot more Christian artists than not, at least independent ones. And I'd say some label ones too, but do have, at least the ones I follow, do a good job of like saying, hey, this song I put out, this is why I put it out. If you can give me that, for me personally, and I think the why is just, it's sufficient. It doesn't have to be like the most holiest. I'm not expecting a whole paragraph of I got this song specifically.
They got the Greek and the Hebrew in there,
right? Speaking about this, like, I'm not that theologian. I'm not that deep with it. But if your heart is to glorify Jesus, or to speak to a testimony in your life about your encounter with Him, or it's just to at least point somebody who has questions about a certain topic or a space, I think there's a lot of good artists out there doing that. But I think, you see half for every 10 people who are like, yeah, there's another 10 people who are like, nah, and then there's the other large percentage that like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just here.
I'm just here for a good time, not a long time.
I'm just here for the beef or the quarrels or whatever goes down. But I think as Christians, we do a better job of just being careful not to come in with assumptions, presuppositions, and just learn to be like, God, let me listen, and Holy Spirit speak to me. Is this something that registers? If it doesn't, help me to go about it in a way that's wise, that's loving, that's tender, that's graceful. Especially if I know if it's a brother or sister in Christ. Handle with grace, right? To whatever degree you can. And no, at the end of the day, if it's not of God, it ain't gonna stand.
Yeah,
if
100%.
It is of God,
it's gonna
it's
expose
gonna keep
itself.
running. Yeah, it's gonna expose itself.
You make me think of what you're saying is just being quick to listen, be slow to speak,
preach.
slow to anger. You said that perfectly, bro.
Come on,
I think
bro,
that's a great way to say it.
It's a word, bro.
What else you got for me?
All right.
What else
all
you
right.
got
All
for
right.
me?
So
we went in there. We got the shovels out. We was digging.
no, that's good because the next question I want to bounce into now is you're an artist.
That's what they tell me.
I'm an artist in our own respective fields, right? When it comes to things, music, visuals, production, things like that. I know that word art can be thrown around loosely.
Yes, it can.
And even as a Christian, what is art, right?
Yeah.
Because I think as Christians, there's the expectation because we have the Word of God and we have our creeds, the things that we hold to, right? There's an expected way to do things.
Yeah.
There's like a formula of how we should go about things, right? How art should be, and that's what we've been pretty much hitting that topic of how art should look as a Christian, and how it should be impacting people.
Yeah.
But also understanding that we serve a creative God, and art's not just this square. It can be this enigma of different
Color
things.
outside of the
outside the
line.
lines. Not of like, and what I want to make clear, not of like orthodoxy and like how to live your life. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about how we express ourselves.
I just imagine someone like, all right, I'm gonna say whatever I want now. I'm gonna paint whatever I want now. He gave me the keys. I'm gonna take them.
He said, this podcast just went from grounded in scripture to new age to spiritual theology where we're just, God can be whatever you make him to be. You know, he can be the sun in the sky, he can be the moon.
You see me unplug my earphones, the
he's
microphone,
like,
I start taking off.
He's
Like,
like,
I gotta
I'm not
go.
a part of this anymore.
They trapped me. They trapped me. They didn't tell me this was where it's gonna go.
It's a trap. No,
That's
no.
hilarious.
But honestly, but when it comes to art specifically, so I'm keeping in the realm of art itself. Like, for me personally, I view art as a way of evangelism.
Yeah.
Right? Which is why I have the standard for my music, in which I want to make sure the art that I leave on this earth at least does one of three things: pushes that person to Christ, reveals God's nature in our daily lives, right? Or continues to glorify and praise him, right? If my music doesn't fall in those categories, then I'm like, okay, hold up, this ain't me. Most likely it's not me, you know? And so but I know that how I make my art, because sometimes I'm sitting there and how I'm making the beat, I'm like, that's not I wouldn't see that as a song people could worship to, you know? Or it might sound different, it might be different. But I think that's where, for me, I find the most joy, and I find really the art and the beauty of how God puts things there. Even when I'm writing, right? When I'm songwriting and I'm making lyrics, I look back and I'm like, God, you gave me those words, right? Like there's no way I would have come up with these like lines, you know. But it's not always in the most orthodox understanding or orthodox way, but it still gets the point across. Yeah, right. But it's unique. And so I wanted to just ask you that question: like, what do you think our perspective of art should be as a Christian?
Oh man, Kumi asking me all the questions, man.
Yes, sir. We're gonna get deep with this.
That's what a podcast is about, though.
Exactly.
So what I think art is, I think the first thing that kind of came to my mind is immediately when you asked me that question, I think art is a form of expression.
Yeah.
And I think a good reason to call it that is because you have various forms of art, right?
Yeah.
So you have fashion. You have like physical art in the terms of like sculptures or paintings or murals. You have musical art, which is, something that you hear or you experience through your ears or vibrations. And you have visual art in the sense of like photography or videography. And there's a lot of other forms of art that I'm not necessarily naming specifically. Yeah. But I feel like most art kind of falls in those 5 like categories or however many categories I named. So I feel like art is a vehicle of expression. And so the reason why you're just like things, this sounds different than what I'm used to, is like I feel like whenever a God is getting an idea, I want to speak carefully on this, but through us. So it's basically it's like if God were to like say to us, all right, make a song about a tree. He tells you to make a song about a tree. He tells me to make a song about a tree. It's going to sound different, be different, and like look different coming from you than it is from me, because it's just like the vessels that are communicating it have, again, like different experiences, different likes and dislikes. Different, they're gonna make different choices.
Yeah.
So I feel like God is able to like speak through our like self-expression in the sense like if we are redeemed and we are, you know, blood-bought believers, and we're walking with Christ, I feel like Christ can use our personal experiences and use our, you know, maybe like personal preferences of self-expression as a way to glorify him through our art. So I feel like art is expression. I don't want to say it's self-expression. It can be, but sometimes I feel like people are trying to express more than self, unless you're just trying to completely like tack it down to like emotion, where it's just like I'm trying to express how I feel. But the first thing that really just came to my mind when I say art, I don't think of music first. I don't think of video first. I just think of I think more of like painting and murals, like something like from Michelangelo or Da Vinci. And not that I'm like a expert on paintings, because I'm really not. I go to museums. Funny enough, my sister loves museums. I go to museums. I'm like, can we go? Like I'm just like another pot. You know, just.
Yeah.
I admire it. I'm not saying it's, but literally, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna call something out. I went to a museum once, and there was literally like a actual, and I'm serious, like a blank canvas on the wall.
Wow.
And I was like, "There's no way that person got paid for that." Like I was actually mad. I was like,
wild.
Clearly, I'm in the wrong profession. Like, I don't know if he just painted a white canvas white or he just put the canvas up on the wall. And I'm serious when I was just like, "There's no way I'm like this is real life." But anyway, I think of like I think of art. The first thing I think of again is just like, just paintings and just like how each like brush stroke really has intention. Even if it doesn't have intention, and that's the point, is just like I'm just gonna throw it around and see what happens. It still kind of tells a larger story. Yeah. And so I feel like paintings are really representative of a lot of different forms of art, because I feel like physical art in the sense of what people would do with their hands. Yeah. Like even if we go back to like not hieroglyphics, what are like cave paintings called? Like caveman art paintings.
There's a name for it.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, it's not
escaping
registering.
my mind. It's not hieroglyphics. It's whatever it's called. Caveman paintings is what we're going to call it today. Caveman paintings in a non-articulate sense. Like still, like I feel like those were kind of the first forms of like art that people made, and so like it's cool to see how people are able to express whatever thought or whatever emotions in their minds, and I feel like all different type of art is very similar to that. It just like happens through different mediums. So that's what I kind of see art as, is a vehicle of expression, and a vehicle that if you're submitted to Christ, is a way that he can help you express an idea from a perspective that only maybe like you have or that you've experienced, but like it can speak to someone else in a myriad of different ways. So, yeah. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, you did. And I think what comes to mind right off the bat is there at some point, because, and this is tough too, for people who want to make what we so call art a profession. Yeah. And I had a discussion actually with an actual artist. She has a degree in ceramics. Graduated.
She just be making
pots. We're thinking of pots, right? So, you know, she's an artsy person, but actually getting her degree in occupational therapy recently. But she, she's a learner. Yeah. Really cool person. But you know, I spoke to her. I was like, you know, what is it like for you when you got your degree? Like, now getting into that business aspect of it, right? When it comes to, you know,
not being a starving artist.
Not being a starving artist.
It's funny because I feel the same way. When you get a film degree, you ask questions.
Yeah. So you're the perfect person to really ask that question. But I think when we talk about now, we're promoting our music, we're promoting our art. Because I think what you just said earlier, going to a museum and you see a blank canvas, and that is called art.
I took that personal. I don't even know why. But
I saw a reel the other day where a dude, apparently some guy spent like 11 million bucks on like this huge mud, like basically cube, circle, whatever you want to call it, cylinder. Guy was just rubbing his face on it, and apparently that's
rubbing his face.
Yeah, he was just rubbing, dude. But man paid, you know,
questions.
$8 million, $11 million for that as art.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, interesting. And so I sit here like, there's part of me says, okay, art is honestly whatever is expression.
Yeah.
The question becomes, who determines like
what is and isn't art?
Yeah, what is and isn't art? You know, that person to the person who made the cube or the person who made that white blank canvas probably had, I'm expressing emptiness, nothingness, right? There is your explanation. So therefore, doesn't that make it art because it's an expression, right? So I think it becomes a tough question, right? What is art really? Because you know,
no, you know what? I'll say this: that cube, that blank canvas, it's art. I don't appreciate. No, I mean, it can be art. I don't have to like it though. You know what I'm saying? I say there's also room for that in art.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm
good.
Sorry, sir. I mean, okay, if that's what it means to you, great. But to me, I see it as a blank canvas. Like I don't really like it, but that's your expression, so you go for it.
And let's take it this direction because this is getting funny because you know, and honestly, again, I am an optimist through and through. I'm always going to give, regardless of how the art sounds.
Yeah.
If I know the heart behind why someone made it, and they gave it their all.
Yeah.
I'm mostly going to dap you up. I don't want to say it's in a sarcastic sense.
Okay,
like, I'm
You just be like,
no.
Hey, bro, good single.
No, I think I'm more so just tied to the fact that you created something.
Yeah.
And I want to like encourage you in doing that because I know like the most beautiful things come from people who are consistently in that creative space. And the more I push people towards being creative and thinking outside the box and being innovative, because I think God, you know, we are made in His image, right? And so we all have that creative tendency to some degree or another. Some more than others. Fine, granted, call it a gifting if you want to, but I know for sure each and every one of us, you know, have that creative element to us in different fields, in different areas, in different aspects. And I want to push people into those things. Obviously, if it pushes them towards God as well, you know, I'm not going to push them to things that are ungodly or not or whatnot. But it's one of those things where now, you know, as a Christian artist, sometimes you can have the perspective that everything you put out, because it's godly, it's amazing art.
Yeah.
Oh, you see,
Yeah,
so that's basically what I was trying to.
I can dip my toe in there if you want me to.
Yeah. So let's. I want to get your perspective on what do you think of that topic of, you know, just because it's godly, it's got to be the best art ever.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts are, first of all, I want to start off by saying this. I want to clarify something. I personally, so I make music. I do. I love doing that, honestly. Something I'm very passionate about. And I'm grateful every time I get to do it. I don't think I'm the best musician in the world though. Like
Same.
I want to
Same.
be 100% honest with
Be
you
honest.
and say I hear stuff and I'm like, that sounds like Cheeks, bro. You know, just straight up, bro. Or I'll hear something and be like, the decorum on that might not be good. I'm sorry. That was bro talk. I hear something and I'll just be like, that doesn't sound adequate. I'll be professional. That doesn't sound good. Or I'll hear something where I'm just like, I mean, it's good, but I'll hear people that are just like clearly more skilled or talented, and I'm willing to appreciate that, but not feel insecure or as insecure anymore.
Oh yeah, I'm understanding.
So yeah, I just want to be like open and honest and humble enough to say like, well, I don't want to call myself humble, but it's just I want to be sober-minded enough to realize like I'm not saying I'm the best artist all the time. Or it's just like, bro, who does this dude think he is? Go look at his Spotify streams. Go look at him. I don't got Drake numbers. I say that to people. I don't have Drake numbers, and I'm not insecure about that. Like it's like whoever listens to it, and I'm gonna just keep making it. Hopefully to grow.
Hey, but even Drake started somewhere. Started from the bottom. Now we here.
Hey, look, Drake started on the grassy. Am I right? But nah. So I think, yeah. I mean, like I'm able to, because I've had people send me songs. Like, hey man, this stuff is good. Like the lyrics are fire. Like, okay.
No, 100%.
Like I'm gonna be like, I'll be honest if I don't like
One
something.
of them was my songs too, by the way. You know, but it's okay because you know
what
he's
song you
been by my
talking
side to
about?
critique and grow. No,
I've never come down hard on you for anything that I remember. Here's my thing. Like if it's someone that's just like sends me their song, like what do you think about it? I'm gonna listen to it. I'm a strong believer in constructive criticism.
Yeah, 100%,
because I always say to my friends, hey, I'm gonna send this to you. Don't have me out here looking stupid. Like if this song does not sound good, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. You're gonna hurt my feelings when I release my song and everyone's firing me up. And I was thinking, man, I was about to drop the album of the year. And I drop it and everyone's just like, dog. Yeah. You don't want to be that guy because then all it does is make me look at my friends. It's just like, do I have real friends?
Do they really love me?
Yeah, no, for real. If they love me, they tell me that it isn't good. But yeah, no, I think so. From an artist to artist perspective, I will give constructive criticism if the person is open to it. I ask them, "Are you open to constructive criticism?"
Yeah.
Cool. And I'm not gonna be like, "Yeah, bro, this is terrible." Like it's not whether it's good or not. It's how can it be improved, or like what did I like and what did I not like, and then I leave it up to you to like do anything with it, because that's how I would want someone to deal with me.
It's good.
From just a fan perspective or a consumer perspective, I'll instantly be like, I don't like it. If I don't like it, like I'm not gonna just say, oh, I'm able to agree with the message of like, yes, they're telling their testimony, they're talking about Christ, like I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
Do I like the music itself? Not really. Like if I'm honest, like I remember I had one person send me all these songs and stuff, and they're like, "What do you think about it?" I mean, sometimes I'll just say what I liked.
That's good.
I'll just be like,
"It's good."
I liked him feeling like he could express himself and tell what Christ did for him. Because I honestly do. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But from everything else, it's just like I'm not a fan of it. And I actually listened to this podcast where this one guy was talking about like he's like, I would hear the music and be like, yo, that's not good, And I'd be like, who could listen to this music? And then he's like, then I go to shows and see the people that listen to it and how it touched them. So like I think there has to be an ability to realize, even though I don't like it, there's people that do.
Yeah, of course.
And so if that reaches them, great.
Perfect.
Like, but yeah, if I don't like a song or if I don't like a particular like genre of music or someone recommends me something I don't like it, I'll just be like, I didn't care much for it, but I'm just gonna leave it at that,
No, it's a good point. It's a good point.
But yeah, I mean, just because, it's one of those things where it's like I think the message can be good and have merit, and me not like it from an artistic perspective. Because there's also like music where it's just like that's, I guess you could say again, non-Christian, and it's like, I mean, from an artistic execution standpoint, I can respect it, but like I don't really rock with it like that, So that's all I have to say about that.
Nope.
As Forrest Gump would say. I
think you kind of did a good job of not getting too harsh, because I think everything you're saying I agree with from the standpoint of we shouldn't be afraid to voice out what our preferences are. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about this like preferential thing, right? Because I think sometimes as an artist, I am all for the artist themselves creating what they like to hear, because at the end of the day, we all have different ears, we all have different tastes and facets. That's something I have to respect and I understand. What I more so only grow fearful of is that, which we're going in an age where music is becoming more accessible, becoming easier to make. I actually was just watching a video from our boy Curtis King, on like AI being able to just make beats and make songs.
That Drake AI. Hey, it's Drake, baby. That doesn't even sound like Drake. It's just like, when it sounds super robotic.
Yeah.
Trophies. Me and my homies walking through Toronto. It's like,
yeah. But I mean, honestly, and it's only going to get better though, because you know how AI and technology be progressing. But it's one of those things where that question for me really only hits whenever it's like we as Christians, kind of get lazy with the music that we make.
No, that's actually a really fair statement to make.
Yeah, and so that's why, like I said, if I know the person's heart, if they're really pursuing music and they're in the sense of like I want to express myself and I'm giving it my all, I'm really trying. Even if you don't know how to use an FL Studio or a Logic to make a beat, but you're like, I just want to express myself and I just want to try, and you make probably the worst beat in the world, but your heart and your intentions were in it. Yeah. Right? For me, I'm like, I'm glad you created that thing. Yeah. And I want to encourage you to keep doing that, because from my experience, like I said, everyone starts somewhere. My first beats, no one want to hear that.
If I got my laptop out right now and you heard that first beat, it's just
it's like slapping on that auto tune, turn it to 100% tune.
Nah, it was so bad I didn't even record nothing. It was just like, I remember sometimes. Look, if you ever need to be humble, go listen to your first beat.
Honestly,
I thought
bro.
I was Kanye. I thought, and you hear it back, and you're like, "This is a tragedy." Yeah.
Yo, honestly,
you gotta keep that first beat to keep you humble.
Keep you humble. But I mean, I think that's where, how the Bible talks about like how God will separate the wheat from the tare. I think after your first beat, And it becomes like the stage of like, do you really love this as an artist? Do you really feel like you have a gifting or a calling? Yeah. I think a lot of that, or passion at least. You don't necessarily have a gifting. For me personally, if you're getting into music, you don't have to have a gifting. I don't have a gift. I'm not a musician, but I had a passion. I'll tell any person that I'm not a musician. I am musically inclined. Most musicians might not see that. There's times I surprise them and they're like, "Oh, okay, Kumi, you kind of have this musical inclination with certain things." Like, but I know that I love music so much that I enjoy the process of making it, producing it, organizing it, composing. And it's even more fun when we collaborate, right? Like I said, we got some cooking in the oven, and even in the process of what we've been making together, it's just I have a deep appreciation for the process of music, and that's how I know that like this is something the Lord has given me this pushing towards to pursue, and I've seen the process God mold me. Like I said, my first beat humbled me, but now I think at this point I've made at least 50 beats, 50 songs. Like maybe not produce songs. I'm getting myself now to actually putting these songs out. That's coming here soon, but at the same time, it's like I see the progression of my first beat to what I'm making now to be like, wow, I'm better. I'm better, and I'm only getting better. And so, but because I have this passion, I have this heart behind it. Again, going back to as if you were an artist and you're pursuing that profession, the only thing I would encourage you is give it your all, right? As a Christian, more so because the Bible calls for excellence, right? And I think artistry, while it is expression, it's also a craft, right? Because at the end of the day, what we are producing, we're glorifying God. And if we know that our God is the King of Kings, He's the Lord of Lords, we say all these things of how we glorify Him and exalt Him high, He deserves the best out of us. And that might not always sound that way to man. I'm not saying man has to be your affirmation. I think at the end of the day, if you make a God song, and it's a song that maybe I'm not fully vibing with, or it's not like, hit on every cylinder for me, well, that's because I'm not the one that created it, right? And so God, first of all, is happy with you. And if God's happy with you, who am I? Right? And then secondly, if you are, but again, going back to that conversation of when we take art and we have to understand that if you want to be someone who wants to pursue it as a career and turn it to business, okay, that becomes a different conversation where it's like, okay, understand that if you're using this to live off of, you kind of have to take into account the people that you are trying to, the audience, the fans that you're trying to give it to.
You can't.
To that degree. Otherwise,
No, like there's a general like.
There's a line for sure.
There is because I remember this one rapper posted it and it's like, if your friend's bad at rapping, you don't tell him you're not a real friend. And I was like, yo, but it's kind of true. Like there's a certain degree where like the court of public opinion, if you want to make music, go for it, bucko. I'm not going to stand in your way.
Come on.
If you want to be a artist in the public market, those are two different things.
Different things, yep.
If I want to make videos, make a video. If I want to take photos, take photos.
Do it.
If you want to be a photographer,
come on.
Because look, I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you. Like I want to be careful because I don't want to sound arrogant. I'm just like if we're just being dead honest, like there's just certain times people are like, oh yeah, I do this, and then you see it and you're like, I think sometimes it's like we gotta be like cognizant of like work on your craft, you know what I'm saying, fam, and develop it. Sometimes I feel like we want to get the cart before the horse, and they kind of have that label. Whereas like again, if you want to be an artist, that's great. I'm not saying you can't, but you also have to take into account, like, do people want to listen to your music? Like, because again, if you're like operating under the delusion that like again, like everybody and their second cousin gonna listen to my music just because I think it's dope. Do they think it's dope? Because their opinion matter. So it's like I think we have to like delineate the difference between like creating things and being things. And I'm not saying that because again, I think I'm Mr. Artist, man. I'm just saying like I think it's because I also think like if you put that pressure on yourself to be an artist, and maybe that isn't like your gifting or your calling, but you enjoy just doing something, you might accidentally like drive yourself into a lane that you don't want to be. Because then it's just like I'm trying to do something, but like truthfully, like I don't know if I'm gifted for that, and so. Sometimes, like you were talking, you made me think like, because there's a lot of songs that I've made that will never see the light of day. Sometimes you can just make something too, like just make it. Like I think sometimes we think because we live in America and it's a capitalist society. If I make something,
then it has to be out there.
It has to be capital. It has to be something that people consume.
That's true. That's
when
good.
in reality, it doesn't have to be. And no one's saying like you can't share it, but it's just like, just realize also when you share something with people, they're gonna give you their opinion back.
Yep.
Just don't,
It's good.
And that could be a lack of response, or it could be a lot of response, So I think, I don't know. I don't even know if what I said really makes sense, but it's just like, there's certain things where it's like you can do something without having the label of like, I'm this, Like you also made me think like you saying, oh, I'm not a musician. Okay, but you're an artist. So it's like, I think there's some musicians that are strictly musicians, and there's some musicians that are artists. And there's some artists that are musicians, but there's some artists that are just strictly artists, And so like, I think the label in some ways does matter. Because also like, I remember this, this is one of the stories I always tell. Like people fall in love with like the title of things. Where like I remember, like as a student athlete, I'd have people come up to me, and this actually really made me and my teammates mad. And they'd be like, "Oh, you're on the track team, right?" I'm like, yeah. Could I be on the track team? Yeah. I mean, like like when the season rolls around, yeah. I used to run like back in like elementary school. Okay. Have you not ran since then? Yeah. I mean, I ran a race, and it's like, okay. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I just mean it like, I felt slightly insulted because it's just like, oh, you think this is just easy, but you don't see all the work that goes into it, So that's why it's just like, again, like we like the label, like we like the title of things, but like for people that are like actually in that or doing that, they know the work that it takes to get there. So it's just like, I think if you have respect for the field, respect for the craft, you'll operate knowing that like certain labels and saying like I'm this or that, like it does carry weight, And so it's just like, for me, like I would just be slightly offended because it's just like, oh, you think this is easy, but you don't see me dying. You know what I'm saying? So like 2 hours before, you just like, oh, you see the gear, And so like, that's why. Yeah, I'm gonna just stop there. I don't know. I feel like I was starting to get off a tangent.
No.
I don't want that to sound arrogant, bro.
Dude, that was. It's just like, honestly, you hit it on the head, and I don't
want to sound arrogant.
This is a moment. This is a moment that you're speaking to, because I think we have to understand. It goes back to what I said earlier about everything we do with excellence for the glory of God.
Yeah.
So I think whatever vocation and craft we pursue, and we talk about art and music specifically. There's a difference, I think you said, between art and taking the label of an artist, right? At that point, you've made it your vocation, not your identity. Your identity is in Christ. That's number one always. But your vocation, your pursuit, and where your purposes lie, right? And so when you're pursuing music, you want to make sure that you're not just the person who is, oh, I do it here and there, or I've done it when I was like younger, but I drop songs every once in a while, speak to myself.
I drop songs every once in a few years, but I'm trying to change that.
I mean,
from my life.
But again, you got to know the person. I think there's nuance there with the circumstances and whatnot. But are you the person who? And this is something I can testify to you.
Okay.
As much as you can also probably testify to me, is like, we put in the work. When we want things done, we do it ourselves. We're like, whatever it takes to get to that point that we finish a project. And I think, in and of that self, that's commendable, and that means that we really care about the craft that we're pursuing. We're not just saying, I want to be an artist, and then being like, all right, I'm on my phone on Instagram, 8 hours a day, just chilling, doing nothing. But we're actually like actively thinking, how can I get this done? Yeah. For this podcast, how can I get this production set up, ready and go? How can I make sure I'm on top of making sure I have a guest list of people who I'm reaching out to hop on a podcast? Like, we were actively in that space. How can I make sure that, for my video shoot, I have the best production picture and the images that I want. Like, I obviously am using this as an analogy to how I respect the craft so much. I learn from people in the process as well, because I want to make sure that what I put out is the best. Yeah. Not for just my own prideful, selfish reasons, but because I know I want to make sure that what people receive is something that is quality enough that I feel personally would honor God. And I think that's going to look different at every level when it comes to what people have access to.
Yep, I was about to say that.
Which I think is something I don't want to make it seem like, you have to do this. Yeah. But I think whatever God's given to you, and I'm always reminded of the parable of the talents, right? Okay. How God gave, each of the three men, Jesus told the story about how the master gave each of the three men different talents, amount of talents, right? Yeah. Two of them went and invested it. One of them just took it, buried it, didn't do anything with it. So when the master returned, the two had multiplied their investments of their talents, right? Well, the one guy came back and said, I return it to you. And he was the one that got scolded because he didn't multiply. God gave it to him, and he expected him to do work with it, to multiply it, make it, bring a harvest from it. And I think when you limit your abilities, when you limit your desire to want to succeed, or you get lazy, is the point I'm trying to get across here. In whatever craft, but you still want to have the label in the picture that I'm an artist, or I'm this and I'm such. You're doing the label itself a disservice. And I think when we talk about this day and age with music, there are a lot of people who want to walk around with the label of this, that, and the such, but don't want to put in the work to do it. Yeah. And to lump, I'm not talking about me, but to lump someone who spent their whole life dedicated to the craft and putting in that work with somebody who's on Instagram saying, "Hey, I'm the next biggest independent artist, and I got one song out, and I'm just riding the vibes and the waves of my audience that's not there, it's not existent. But I'm an independent artist like he is, so I'm just as good. I'm as deserving of everything he has because I'm just an independent artist. I think that does a disservice to the whole label. In general.
I would say so.
I see what you're saying. I think it speaks to whatever God's called you to. It can be music, can be,
It could be a marine biologist.
It could be marine biologist. Thank you. It could be whatever vocation in the world you're pursuing. Give it your best, right? And do it for the glory of God, because you want to make God proud. I think there's that element of, whenever I think of God being the Father, it's I want to make him proud. I don't want to live my life in such a way that dishonors him, disgraces him, because one, he's done so much to me, for me,
for sure.
and he's continually doing stuff for me. Like, all I want to do. Funny enough, that song now that I finished up, that one line, gotta make the family proud. But it's one of those things where it's like, you want to make your Heavenly Father proud. Not saying that we're not gonna have our shortcomings, that we're gonna come up perfect every time. But when you shoot for your best, you settle for where God has you to land, and I'm pretty sure it's better than where you would have been if you didn't try in the first place, right? So that everything you're saying speaks to that point of just like, we got to be careful not to just, because we're Christians, and we're putting stuff out for God, that's all he expects of us. He expects our best. That it's not just, I said Jesus 20 times in a song.
Yeah.
Woo!
Because then at the end of the day, that's really just kind of like an empty lip service thing, because you're just trying to check off the boxes.
Exactly, check off the boxes.
But I was going to say, I feel like I can best sum up my point in the analogy of, if I say I'm a welder, okay, and all I've done is turn on the little torch and like put two pieces of metal together, and then they fall apart, and I go up to like someone else that like welds the Titanic together, which technically, yikes. Someone that maybe, let's say, just welds a cruise ship together, even though I know a lot of that's bolted or whatever, just for following the analogy. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm a welder. And I go up to him like, yeah, I'm a welder. It's like, dog, you put two, like, and that's not to like crap on anyone that's just getting started. I'm not saying that. But it's just like, again, before we try to just wear the label, like, let's just like learn the craft. And again, I've only been doing this for a few years. Sometimes like I don't even really consider myself like advanced in anything. I'm still learning. But it's just one of those things, like, out of respect for the craft, everything you said, like, let's take the time to learn. Let's take the time to kind of figure things out. And as we grow, I think we're able to, because I feel like the welder himself knows that he doesn't know a lot. But like, I realize the people, like when I'm just starting out, or like the people that like act like they know a lot, or think they know a lot in a lot of situations, tend to be the people that know the least. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the more I learn about, especially in my profession, the more I learn, the more talented people I'm around that are way more talented than me. Like, I start to realize, bro, I know nothing. And it makes me not want to speak up. Because I'm just like, I need to sit and listen. But yeah, I'm gonna ask it again. What else you got for me?
Man.
What else?
I mean,
is there anything else?
There's plenty, actually, because I mean, when it comes to music, there's just this, because I want to even get into like, when it comes to, kind of get into the business aspect of it.
Okay.
Because I know the faith aspect has been very heavy.
Because my royalty checks be clearing. So yeah,
Woo! Gonna get some from this podcast too. So it's coming. It's coming eventually. But that being said, I don't know if you heard, but Spotify and all these different streaming services be doing some wild stuff too. When it comes to independent artists. So, it's a wild world out here. But that being said, I want to speak to now the marketing aspect of music. Just because we've had conversations about this
yes, we have.
in private. When it comes to marketing your music and Because I know we've had a conversation on the tension of like, is it you as an artist, do you feel like your art is taken away from when it's focused on being marketed in the sense of like, I know you've told me countless times you wouldn't want to be a TikTok artist.
Yeah, I've said that.
Right.
You can quote me on that.
Verbatim.
Verbatim.
But it's one of those things where I sit here and I'm like, okay, but it's not for. There's a nuance to what I'm saying. Obviously, when I'm saying that about you, it's not like you don't. It's just that we grow up in a society when it comes to music and how it's promoted. Yeah. It's like you create one song and then you're spending most of your time making content around that one song. Sometimes at this point where it's like you make the song with the content in mind, versus you make the song out of like just pure. I was given this, and I'm just like a Jacob Collier, for example, someone who's just a super creative artist, right? And it's like from the bottom up, you just see his process, and he's just always bringing things together to make the most diverse and unique music. Versus someone who might makes maybe not as super diverse of a song.
Yeah, sorry to be Jacob Collier.
He's
hard to attain that level of
He's
greatness.
Like peak, in my opinion, obviously.
Have Jacob on the podcast.
Hey, that's the goal.
I want to sit here for that.
Hey, yo,
one.
Jacob, you are invited on the Faithful Breed podcast just so I can pick your mind on music because honestly, you got a gift, brother. But I see him as a picture of just someone who's an artist, right? But at the same time, it's like sometimes it's gotten to the point with our society where everyone wants to be a one-hit wonder. Okay. And so to do that, we sometimes make songs either copying other artists' songs that we've listened to because we're like, okay, if this big artist had success, if I make a song just like that, hit me with that tight beat, that X type beat, this type beat.
And then, that chance type beat. And then trouble come in. And it's like, okay.
Get that soul voices, the gospel choir in the back, depending on what but that being said, it's like we try and imitate so that we can get that notoriety, that fame, because we look at formulas versus, again, we were talking about the definition of what art is, right? Where art is an expression. And expression is unique to each and every person, right? And I want to get your perspective of what you think about people who look to a TikTok marketing, Instagram marketing, YouTube Shorts marketing, whatever the media marketing is, to really promote their music. Do you think that pulls away from the artistic element of their art, or is it something that one could view as an add-on or a plus or benefit to it?
So the first thing you talking made me think of the lyric from when J. Cole dropped like 2 singles, and it was The Lion King on Ice, and it was The Climb Back. And this is right before he dropped the off season. In the intro to The Climb Back, it says, "Are you doing this to facilitate growth? Are you doing this just for fame?" You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that's a great question we have to ask ourselves as artists. It's actually, so I'm gonna expose myself actually. About 2 years ago, right around the time I was releasing, what's it called? I can't think of the name. One Trick Pony. I was like, what's the name of that song? The one song I wrote. I remember when I attacked artistry and I attacked music, it was so much more about like, I want to prove that I can make dope music. And I want to prove that I can like make stuff that sounds good. And it was all about myself. It wasn't about, like, I don't want to say that song particularly was not about God. But even if you listen to it back, I listened to it back and I'm like, man, this sounds like a little cynical, but it's okay. It was how I felt at the moment. Yeah. But I realized it was so like me focused, of like me trying to make myself look like the best artist of all time in my mind, that there was no joy in it. And now the Lord's like really grown me from that to see it as like, just kind of by stepping away for a little bit and really kind of processing it. Because there was a moment where I was just like, do I actually really need to keep doing this? Because if it's going to create this unhealthy mindset, then I need to drop this. Yeah. And the Lord kind of brought things back around full circle for me to realize, like, this is a ministry opportunity. It's no longer about, I want to just make dope art. Yeah, I would love to do that. And make dope art for the Lord. But that's not like the end-all be-all for me. The end-all be-all for me is like, this glorifies God when Like, to me, like, I do it for him, but also the goal is to go and reach people, encourage people that are believers or who aren't, and try to pull them in and be like, hey, let me tell you about Jesus. So it shifts my perspective from it being about me and it being self-serving, because then it becomes really frustrating that way. And it becomes super shallow, to now it's like, this is for God. And, you know, this will have its season, and then one time, you know, eventually something else will come. But in this particular season, I know this is where one aspect in which I can serve God. And so to bring that back to what you're saying, my question is, when people, I talked to a coworker about this, actually. I had this epiphany, not really an epiphany, but a thought. My thought was, and I got a really good thing. I'm gonna say this real quick, and then I'm gonna come back to your question. So I was watching this interview with Kanye, and it was his interview. This has nothing to do with your question, but I want to say this. It was his interview with Big Boy about the Vultures album or whatever. I never listened to it, but he was basically saying, like, if I need to get something done, like, I'm gonna do it because I can do it. I don't need God, was the point he was basically trying to make. I don't know if he verbatim said that, but like, he was basically making the point, like I'm kind of tired of waiting on God to have certain things done. Like, why do I need him when I have all the resources to get things done? And let's be honest, Kanye has a lot of resources to get things done, but he's not God. And so the thing that was interesting to me, the thought that popped into my mind, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like the Holy Spirit just be like, let me just drop something in there. I don't know if it was that or if it just bubbled up to my conscious, but the idea was like, when do we start mistaking talent for deity? Like, at what point was it just like, oh, because you're really skilled at something, you're a god, or you're God? Like, no, you just, you, like, for me, it's like with Messi, you can kick, man, you the best soccer player some people think of all time, you know? But take you off a soccer field, you're just an average dude. Like Kanye West, bro, in the studio, you crazy. On a fashion to some people, crazy. I mean, but put you in Walmart, you're still shopping for like you know, like, so it's like, if you like detach people from the thing that makes them significant, they're just regular people every single time. Like Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? The dude can fly. You take him off the basketball court or off the golf course or off the baseball diamond. Like, just a normal dude. He's just a dude, you know, with a lot of money, but he's just a dude, you know? And that's not to say these people don't do great things, but it started to make me wonder, like, when did we start mistaking talent with deity? Like, they're not the same thing. Deity is holiness. Talent is skill set, like, at most. It's a gift. It's a gift. But who gives it to, by the way? So that's something that I realized. And so it comes back to this question that I think we're so focused on trying to build a brand. Because I realized, like, we have all of these creators out here, like, making this content, making music, making all of these things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, like I said, y'all, I might be a bit of a purist sometimes. I'm just gonna, that's the quick disclaimer in my mind. And then I do something that makes me look like a hypocrite in that. 100%. But like, my question is, are you making content because you like doing it? Like, this is what I when I watch it, like, I'm like, do you like doing this, or are you just trying to build a brand, and why? Like, why do you want to build a brand? And like, the brand that you're building is really just you. Like, we're starting to get to the point where everyone just wants to market themselves
in some way or another. And
I think that's dangerous because we're not products. Like, you're not what you do. You're not the content that you put out. Like, if you're an Instagram comedian, you might be a funny person, but like, you're not your page. And not that these people don't recognize that, but it's like, I think, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. It's just like, I think we're being programmed in a safe sense to like we have to be this way, or like, to be successful, you have to market yourself. That's what people tell you. And like, of course, if you're an artist, like, you have to put yourself out there, but like, that's not who you are as a person. And so it's like, when you start all your decisions, whether it's like as a person or just like creatively, revolve around me just trying to constantly build a brand, every decision I make, of course, certain decisions do dictate, you know, what you're going to do. But if every decision's like, I gotta market myself, I gotta build a brand, I feel like that's super unhealthy, because you start to like imprison yourself. So that's why I think I really push back against it, because it's like, I feel like everyone's just out here trying to be famous, trying to, you know, build a brand about themselves. But like, have you ever sat and asked yourself why before you do that?
It's the why.
And it's just like, even even if like it's successful, do you really want to be a brand? Because then all of a sudden people see you as a commodity. So as soon as you do something that they don't want you to,
then
they're not gonna like you no more.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, well, dang, who am I? So that's why I don't like the form that art is taking in certain ways, because it's becoming a means to an end to build a brand, to up yourself.
Yeah.
When like naturally, as someone that's just a little bit more like, yes, I love the song. I just feel like sometimes people are just trying to sell me something. And what they're trying to sell me is like themselves. And it's like, bro, like you don't got to do all that, you know? Now, that's not to say all content creators are doing that.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I respect
100%.
the grind. I respect the amount of consistency that goes into having to make a video every day.
Dude, that's a lot.
A crazy
It's a lot.
grind. But that's also like, as someone that's in this field, even though I don't make short form content in that degree.
Yeah.
So I respect it, but like I get concerned for the content creators, because it's like, dog, like for you to be able to like churn that much out, even if you batch shoot it, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's like, how are you doing? I know everything. Like I know the views are popping, the likes are popping, but like I don't know. Like, excuse me, I'll restate again. This is just kind of how I feel in regards to this situation. You know. Actually, I forgot where I was going. Let's backtrack a little bit, Kumi. Where was I at?
You were speaking more so to the worry that you have for basically artists.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I just I have worries for current content creators, just because people consume stuff and we're forced to create stuff at like an unsustainable pace. And that's why it's like your favorite YouTuber would go hard for 3 years and then you wouldn't see him for 5. And you're like, what happened to him? And it's like, because dude got burnt out. Like I remember Ryan Higa, who I loved watching growing up. That man is OG YouTube.
Nice guys
Finish last. That's why. So anyway. Funny thing is, there's actually no, I'm not gonna say that because I don't want people to search for it. Anyway, on the deep recesses of YouTube, you might find a video of me singing that song.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm gonna be
deep recesses.
tonight.
Yeah. Good luck finding that.
Oh man, that's crazy.
But yeah, like I loved Ryan Higa growing up, and I remember watching a YouTube video where he was just talking about how kind of miserable he was after a while doing that, and it wasn't fun anymore, and it was like a means to an end. Yeah. And that. Back when he was creating, like, he had to make skits like probably like every week or so. I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that.
But now it's like every day. And then it's just like, well, then your life just constantly becomes, because I remember this when I had Snapchat as like high school, or even when I was in college for a little bit. It's like, okay, what can I show? What cool memory can I make? And it's like, now I'm trying to produce content out of like, I'm basically trying to like curry up content, or, conjure up content of just like, okay, well, if I'm at practice, maybe I can make a funny moment with my teammates to show it people. And it's like, realistically, that's actually, to me, a very unhealthy mindset, because then you're not living in the moment. You're trying to like force exciting things to happen. So the reason why I think I push back so much against just not content creation in general, but I think the mindset behind it is because I'm concerned for the content creator. Like, are you doing things because you want to? Or are you doing things because you feel like you're forced to, because the market's telling you? And of course you do have to, like, to a certain degree. Again, I think there's a tension. Like, you have to be relevant and put yourself out there, but not at the expense of like losing yourself. Exactly. And I think there's just so many people, like I think we're raising a generation of kids that like think that everyone wants to be an influencer, and like when in reality, like, and I said this in One Trick Pony, where I was like, I'm really struggling if I'm trying, not, this isn't what I verbatim said, but like I'm struggling trying to figure out whether or not I should do this, because like as a person, like, so I've been an athlete, all right, so I fulfilled that. It's about to be another black person thing again. And what I mean by that is I've been an athlete, right, and now I make music and I rap, and it's just like I had to literally ask myself, like, if there's a reason I'm doing this is because like I feel like that's all I can be, like as a, and obviously again black people and me as a person can be a lot much more things than that. But you know, like stereotypically in like culture, people are like, oh, if you're not an athlete, then you rap, you know, all these things. And I had to ask myself the internal question of like, did I like internalize a stereotype and not even know? And it made me really like self-conscious about why I was doing that. I was like, what? I don't even know how I got here.
No, you're good. No.
But it was a question I had to, like, during, like, you might hear me like talk about that in One Trick Pony. Like, I was asking myself that question. Oh, and the point I was trying to make was like, I feel like we're also kind of teaching a generation like, oh, you know, everybody wants to be a content creator. Like that's where it's at. Like everyone creates some type of content, and it's like you can be something else. That's why I was part of me wonders like, should I keep doing like music and art? Because it's just like I also want to show people you can be something else.
Of course,
you don't just have to be these two things that people say. That's all you can do. Like you can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, you can be an accountant, you can be a real estate agent. Like you can be so many things. But I feel like because America's so driven on talent and on fame, and we see that as deity. Then like we think that's the peak of existence when it's like in reality, like if you're serving God with whatever place He's put you in, that's where I think you'll see the secret sauce as opposed to just like let me make some type of big image of myself.
So good.
So that's why. And again, I didn't even talk about music. I think in general I'm very weary of how culture is going in terms of art and content and the influencer and the consumer too. I didn't talk about that as much because it's just like, what type of people are we making? You know, are we making people that are just obsessed about trying to become something? Because you know what? Yeah. I'm going to tell this story. I actually had a viral moment. I went viral in high school once. So me and my friends made this little video about like, I was taking my friend to like a spring dance because like he didn't have a ride. So I was I'll take you and your date and we'll just pimp out my mom's minivan, give it a red carpet, like the whole thing. And we got on World Star. We got like 1 million views.
Oh, that's crazy.
The whole thing, and everyone it's small town. Everyone, oh shoot, you made it, yeah. And I didn't get on World Star for a fight, but you know, for a famous, like, oh shoot, that's crazy. You're famous now, or whatever. And it was cool for like a week or two. Just talking to town. Yeah. And then after that, it's like no one cares. And then it's like, okay, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how this can become like very addicting or very problematic. And it's really like not all of that. Like, I don't know. And again, like it's just one viral moment, you know. But it's like, it made me realize like, I mean, it's cool, but like there's way more to life than that, you know? And so I just feel like if we have a generation of kids that's raised on like, again, that's peak existence, they're going to be like horridly disappointed when they achieve it. And then it's like, well, all my life I was told this was it, you know? No. I just want kids to know like you can be more than that. But let me. That's good. How about you restate your question so I can actually answer?
No. You answer the question. You
I'm so sorry.
Exceeded it. Saying a lot of valuable things, I want to take moments to really just again emphasize on all the value that you're saying in that whole, you know, statement that you just made when it comes to content creation. Because the biggest thing that I'm hearing as you're speaking is know your why. Right.
I would say so.
As D1 would say, and I've told you this, mission, vision, baby.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know, you got to be able to know your why, because if you don't know your why, and I'm going to couple that, if you don't know your identity as well, right, fame is a heck of a drug.
Yeah, and I haven't even really tasted it, but it must be to make people do some crazy things.
That's what I'm saying.
The Migos said, do anything for clout. Do anything for clout. They do. People do. I've seen it. People do anything for clout.
But knowing your why, understanding your identity, I think that for me personally, because I probably, with songs that I drop this year, we'll make content for it.
Yeah, for sure. As you should.
Because I think there's an element, it also still ties to that art question we talked about earlier. Like, you know, sometimes adding visual art to audio art is nice. And I'm kind of an artist in that regard where I'll make a song, not actually, in most cases, not envisioning the content at first or what I'm going to put down, but as I'm in the process of making it, I'm imagining like, okay, how I'm singing it or how I might be rapping something or how I might be saying something. I can see it in a picture, and I want to make that picture come to life. I want to give a visual to what I'm feeling, right? And so I view the visual process as an artistic element too. But I think, again, I'm always, you know, the Lord always confronts me, the Holy Spirit confronts me with the why are you doing this? Remember why you're doing this, right? And where is it coming from? And if I know that it's coming from a place that is selfish, prideful, right? All things that fame tends to, you know, really expose. I mean, fame in itself, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think what it does though, like anything, power and things of that nature, it just exposes who you really are.
Yeah. I mean, I think fame is an occupational hazard of, like, if you're skilled at something, it comes with the job sometimes, but like It's not the job itself.
It's not the job itself.
And I don't want to cut you off.
You're good. No, you're good. No. But this is I'm interviewing you.
You made me think of something though that I wanted to say.
Yeah.
A lot of my critique, also, if I'm honest, is prideful. Because, and this is what I mean by that. Not necessarily what I just said, but like when people will be like, oh, but like I don't know. Sometimes I'll just be like, no, like putting music on TikTok, and a lot of it is prideful because it's just like that's not how I would do it, or like I'm insecure because I'm not putting stuff out like they are. That's a lot of it. Like I'm willing to call myself out enough to, and it's all the stuff like the Lord will expose, where it's just like, or like I think I'm honestly, and again, I'm not saying I actually like think I'm better, but like from a prideful aspect, there'll be ego of just like, man, I'm better than doing it like that, you know? When in reality, it's just like, oh, so you think you're better than people. Oh, so you think you're better than a TikTok artist. Like, and not in a sense where it's like skill set, but like prideful, like as a person, which is like, I'm not a TikTok artist. Like I'd be looking down on, and it's like, oh, that's a problem. And that's when when we had that conversation, you made me realize like, there's some pride there, dog, where you just feel like because that's not how you do it, or you don't like doing it like that, you think your way is better.
But that's humility, and so what you're doing there is expressing humility because I think
that's the Holy Spirit. That's the Holy Spirit.
It's the Holy Spirit, of course. All that stuff's from the Holy Spirit. But I think, and it's scary too, because the extremes that you really don't think or you're not aware of until you actually realize, like, okay, my way of thinking, I'm starting to really look down upon those who do it a certain way, which I'm always careful because, you know, and I use the phrase, I think I've used it pretty much consistently every podcast, he who fears God, in Ecclesiastes 7, he who fears God avoids every extreme, right?
Facts.
You don't want to, yes, it might not be how you do it, but which is why I think it's also healthy to always play devil's advocate in most situations, because you can see from another person's perspective what they're thinking, why they're thinking the way. It might not be right 100%, but it challenges you to really answer the questions that otherwise you kind of have a bias. You understand that you have a bias. Everyone has a bias to some degree on something one way or another. It can sometimes expose your biases and help you rethink and reshape how you view that person. So when I hear you speak, I understand where your heart is and where you're coming from, but I also don't let it go to the point where I'm looking at just because they're, you know, every person I put content online for their music has this very selfish mode.
Right,
of like, I want fame. I just want that 20 seconds. No, because again, that's why I find that middle ground of your why matters, right? Because when I can understand why I'm doing, if I have a wife and kids and music is all I got to provide for them, heck, I'm gonna market, do whatever I do. I have to do it.
I gotta feed those babies.
Feed those babies. I gotta put food down on the table for the fam. And I gotta hold it down. So I think, like, to that person, it would be very wrong of me. To criticize them and say you're doing it for the vanity, when man's just trying to do it to feed his children, right? And he's just doing everything he can. He's working hard. Some people look at it as a job, to some degree.
It's because it is. I mean,
and
in many ways.
I everything you're saying though, and I know your heart too. But I'm glad why it's really good that you're stating that. Hey, the Lord checks me because sometimes I feel like maybe how I'm doing is better. I know at the end of the day, when we focus on our why and we can and literally just say, God, why am I doing this? Where am I going? Keep me in check. Humble me. Because if there's a piece of content that I feel like maybe that I have pride exuded, let me. I'm gonna take it back. Just like J. Cole when he had to take back 7-minute drill.
I gotta be honest. I thought 7-minute drill was pretty light. I didn't feel like he said anything that was that like rude. But yeah.
But he knows. But there's that spiritual element. I think the Holy Spirit obviously convicts everyone differently. But I think I can respect someone like him. I know everyone's talking about it now. But it's. I look at it as I love obedience, and I love the obedience in it because I actually shared a message with my young adults group 2 weeks ago about. The story in 2 Samuel, or 1 Samuel. It was 1 Samuel. Yeah, happy 1 Samuel because Saul was king. But basically, it was a point where he had done something against what God had told him to do. It was pretty much the end of like Saul's kingship, where God was looking at him like, bro, you've kind of just diverted off the path of where I was leading you. And the prophet Samuel comes like, yo, like God told you to do this. You didn't do what he exactly told you to do. But I did this. He's like, no, God told you to do this specifically. You added on, you twisted it, and you did something different. And also, you don't see it because you're kind of in this delusional state of, you're thinking that you're doing the best things for God, but you're really not, right? And because of that, I'm going to revoke your kingship, right? And basically was what, God was telling to Saul through Samuel. And in that passage, he makes this comment, right? that obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yep.
Very common verse. And so when you understand that whenever the Holy Spirit puts on your heart, hey, you shouldn't do this, even I might, as an onlooker, like I said, you listen to Mitchell, I listen to something, I would agree. It's not that bad. This weren't that bad. It was just kind of like a, hey, it felt like just more like a sparring match, right? You know, just throwing some bars in there and trying to flex my lyricism skills, Yeah. But at the same time, I respect that because not a lot of people at that level, at that notoriety, would be like, yo, I didn't feel good about that. Some people will just either be quiet, be silent about it, ride their egos. And I think it's good because what you're called to be obedient to might not be what I perceive is obedience. But if God tells you to do it, I always tell my friends this, if God tells you to do something, who am I? I can give you my perspective, I can give you my advice, but I would rather you do what God tells you to do, be obedient in every regard, than you take my advice, even if I feel like maybe you're not going too far. Maybe if God says no, we all have different convictions. Okay, I think we have to learn to be obedient to those convictions, whatever God calls you to, even though it might not look as bad from the outside looking in, right? So I'm very always conscious of that. And when we talk about obviously the content thing, that's why I always have that limiter of, I might not do it this way, but again, the Holy Spirit doesn't work. The Holy Spirit isn't speaking to me the same way He's speaking to you same way He's speaking to me, right? So I'm going to respect what He speaks to you, and if you feel like this is and you know your why, you know why you're doing things, I'm going to encourage you in the Lord and pray that you're being obedient in that regard. Yeah. But obviously there's levels to that even, and that could be a whole conversation of how do we know if God's speaking? And
I was gonna say, it was like as long as it aligns with Scripture, I'm chilling. But if you're doing something that's wild. Yeah, if it's not biblical, but you're trying to say it's for Jesus, we're gonna have to sort that out. Yeah.
That energy. Well, I want to wrap it up with this because you are everything that we spoke to today when it comes to art. I think it's been beautiful because I think I think we're encouraging an audience, people who maybe are trying to get into the artist space and or have very creative ideas for the Lord, that we're in one essence being like, hey, check yourself, know why you're doing it. Because with creativity, there's this element of uniqueness that's naturally there, right? So you have to understand that you're going to be maybe different from those around you. People are going to see that, are going to know that. So there's going to be this naturalness of fame that's going to come along with it. But so you need to know your why. You need to understand your identity. But at the same time, we want to keep pressing and pushing people to be creative because God is a creator. We are His vessels, and therefore we just reflect His creation. And what I love is that the first song you dropped this year, man, Avant-Garde. I want you to explain the meaning behind that song for the audience, and then we're gonna let them listen to it.
Oh, this is gonna feel like a radio show.
We got loaded, so I'm like,
feel like a radio show.
But I want you to give the reason why you wrote it, because I think that kind of ties into everything we're talking about when it comes to how we present God, and that kind of mentality we should have.
Yeah. So first thing is, did I give you permission to no? Let's go with the copyright strike, baby.
More royalties on it.
So what I actually kind of want to do, and I know we're trying to wrap it up, so I don't want to hold because I know we've been here for a little bit. This might have to be a two-parter.
Of course. Oh yeah.
So most I'm willing to give an explanation, but I'd actually love if there'd be an ability for you to play it, and then we can pause it at certain parts, and I can give a brief I
should be able to do that.
But yeah, so I mean, Avant-Garde really came around because I was actually trying to make a beat for a visual production that, I'm not necessarily going to go into about explaining just for confidentiality reasons, but we were working with this one particular artist that I've always wanted to work with. And I was like, so I, got to meet the guy, and I was like, bro, this is someone literally I was raised on their music. And so having to get to meet him, and so we shot the production with him. And so we were needing some music for the video, and I was just like, what if I made a beat for the video so I could say technically the artist was on my beat in a weird way. So I started making the beat for that actually, and then it started taking off, and I was like, I'm gonna just keep this for myself, And so that's kind of how the thought of it originated. But I always wanted to do something with the term avant-garde, and so the reason why is just because I've always thought avant-garde is like I don't listen to avant-garde music. I don't really rock with avant-garde fashion because like that you're thinking like Met Gala if we're talking avant-garde fashion. It's just like, bro, what are you wearing? Yeah. But the thing I realized is in my music, one thing I love to do is I like to take terms, things, or just popular ideas that people are familiar with. Yeah. And I like to kind of turn it on its head and give it either some type of like gospel packaging or like try to share my testimony or just like share what God's expressing to me through like a vehicle that people are like, oh, I've heard this term before. And I had a lot of people tell me, oh, I've heard this term before, but the way you present it is actually really different. Yeah. And so the whole idea of it basically like, and I say this in the commentary of it, but like our walk with God. So if we look at how the world tells you need to walk, you know, like, hey, get some money, get a good job, get a bunch. I mean, as a guy, this is what as a guy, it's like, hey man, like, get as much money as you can, you know what I'm saying? Get as many females as you can, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Go ahead and, you know, just flex. Make sure you're looking nice type deal. And it's like, the world tells you need to step this way, and a lot of people step that way, right? But as believers in Christ, we're called to, like, literally live a way that is exactly opposite to that. Like, again, like, if we look at the picture of Jesus, like, they thought he was about to be a Messiah that was about to come and topple Rome and that Israel was going to triumph. And, you know, like all these things, these ideas that they had. And Jesus came and he was a suffering servant. And they're like, wait, hold on. You the guy, but like, you're not the guy that we thought you were going to be. Yeah. And so we even see it in Jesus' life. Like he's walking in a way that like just completely flips everything on his head. Right. Yeah. And so avant-garde in and of itself is like, I think the technical definition is like an unorthodox, like mean of art or like doing stuff that isn't like based off of like the normalcy of how the state of whatever art form that you're doing is. Yeah. And so it's just like really out there. It's different. And so like I feel like when we walk in Christ, like it's unorthodox to the ways of the world. It's like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. You know, this is new. This is groundbreaking. When it's like, nah, in reality, this has been around for a long, long time. But I probably shouldn't say it like that. It's been around for a long, long time. And, you know, the cool thing is just like, I lost my train of thought, threw myself off. I feel like I kind of said it in an accent. I was like, ooh, that could be problematic. Okay, let me walk myself back a little bit.
The tension between
so
what's old being presented as new.
So the cool thing is like with Christianity and with believing in Christ, like even though it seems like it's new and it seems like it's groundbreaking, it's been around for a long time. Yep. And so by us walking in the freedom that comes in Christ, by us walking with Christ, basically we're avant-garde to the world because it's just like, this is new. This doesn't make any sense. Why would you willingly like give yourself up for people? Why would you willingly like care for people when you can't gain anything? And it's like the world can't understand it or comprehend it because it's beyond that. And I feel like avant-garde art is just like, it doesn't make any sense to the people that don't get it, you know? But once you get it, you get it. I feel like that was a poor explanation of it.
No, that was a beautiful explanation.
But that was kind of the reason behind the song. Yeah, we can listen to it a little bit, and I might stop you at parts where it's just like, let me explain this bar.
All right, we're going to see if this plays through this way I hope it will play through. Let's see.
So it's still recording the podcast while we're playing this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's dope.
It's recording, but
Roadcaster's powerful.
Let's see if it will.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done.
Do you want to like earth pause and restart it?
As it is in heaven. Let's go.
You're able to.
Bring this back.
Can you drag it back?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll just get a clean start maybe.
All right. Do you hear it clear on your end? All right, cool. Making sure that's coming through right. All right. Here we go.
Our Father, who art in heaven,
nerd out about the production.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Let's go.
Love the sense, bro, this song.
Oh, yeah.
He paid my debt, so count that cost. To wear that crown, pick up my cross. To live is Christ, my life ain't lost. No. This world's been fast, the work moves slow. It's worse that you reap what you sow. Trying to keep what's chief in focus. Make your love my magnum opus. All my flaws, he made me flawless. Now I'm all redeemed the lawless. Called him flawless. That's who God is. Old the righteousness, my scars.
I don't have anything to say. It's just kind of,
I don't know, man.
My faith in God, the Christ, my life seems
where the head's bobbing.
Actually, pause it real quick.
New grace you give.
The flow.
Can
you pause it real quick to me?
Okay.
So yeah, I know. We might have to run it back a little bit back into the chorus. So there's just this part that no one hears. I wish I mixed it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But there's like this little synth line. like that kind of leads into the verse. It's like, man, and I just feel like it really kind of set it off because it was missing something.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't even know if people really noticed that's in there. But like from a production standpoint, that's one of my favorite parts of the song. I wish I would have made it more prominent in the mix, but
I mean, if it's in there, at least it's in there.
It's in there, but I don't think people see it.
Surprise.
Yeah.
He's like, put respect on my boy's name, okay? You gotta put some respect on those niche things. Because as producers, we value these small things.
It's a little ear candy.
Ear candy.
But I buried it in the mix by accident.
No, but it's good though.
Hardest prices, place my faith in God, the Christ. My life seems avant-garde. Who this? New clothes, new fit, new grace you gift. Woke up in the morning with a fresh dose. Balance every trouble on a cleft note. Built in every measure to crescendo.
All right, pause it.
I waged
All right. Did you catch it? It was pretty like mild, tame, like lyrical wordplay, but it was building every trouble or building every
Trouble on a clef? No.
Yeah. Bounce every trouble on a clef note, building every measure to crescendo. The point I was trying to make with that was like building every measure. So I mean, of course, it's like a wordplay of just like musical terminology, but like when I meant measure, I actually just meant like building all of the measures that like God gives us to like a crescendo of like trying to take it to its peak.
That's good. That's good.
I don't know if anyone cared, but
there was that. I'm a lyricist. I know not everyone is, but hearing first of all the reference being made, the entendre you make to the clef notes, treble, is like that's genius. But then to get the double entendre of the meaning,
that one was pretty mild. Personally, that was a pretty mild.
He said that's mild.
It was pretty mild. Like, it's not. I don't know. I don't feel like that was that deep.
I gave up gossip. Go do God's loves my aspiration. My whole life's one big aberration or deviation. It's countercultural. The truth ain't watered down yet. It's potable. The tables turn. He reversed them total posts. Fight that toe to toe. Beat down OGO. Beat that over show. Read them OG scrolls. No one greater. Call the no one's no.
All right, pause.
I'm taking a leap of faith.
Because then there's another line coming after that. That's actually I think is the line that I like maybe the most out of the song. But so the line there that I was thinking about this the other day when I said like no one greater called the no one's notable.
Notable, yes.
Like
explain that one.
That's so I 100% mean that about Jesus, where Jesus is literally the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And like he still cares for the least of these. Like if you think of the people that he selected to be his disciples, like these are not the astute, these are not the scholars of the day. Like Jesus is, and God is looking for the lowly. Like the people that people would literally consider no one. Like if you think of like the woman with the issue of blood or the woman at the well, it's just like, because at that time like Jews and Samaritans did not mix. And so like people that people would see as the least of these or they wouldn't pay any attention to, like no one else calls the no ones more notable. Like he puts emphasis on the people that people look over.
Good.
And I think I don't know, like that's just something about like I literally thought about that like maybe 2 days ago, and I was just like, man, like that's really impactful. Not because it's like I wrote it, but it's just like it's true. Like how does the greatest see the least as significant? Like that's just how amazing God is, So you might want to run it back a little bit because this Spider-Verse line. Yeah, I gotta break that one down. I gotta actually break that down, bro.
All right, let's back it up real quick.
I want people to understand what was going on there.
I really hope this stays in playback really well, but let's see.
Beat that over show, read them OG scrolls. No one greater, call the no one's notable. Like Miles Morales, I'm taking a leap of faith. The prowler command me, I seek your face. Got training from Peter to flee temptation. Ready your word when I'm weak to strength. The devil is products, so products won't help.
The hardest part is I gotta try to recall my lyrics when I haven't sung them in a little bit. So like Miles Morales, I'm taking a leap of faith.
Yes.
All right. If you look at the first Spider-Verse movie, we all know the iconic
jump scene.
Where
yes,
he jumps off. Okay,
building,
like Miles. So we're setting it up. We're setting up that world that we're in this Spider-Verse environment. Like Miles Morales, I'm taking a leap of faith. The Prowler, come at me, I seek your face. Okay, so we know in the first movie, Miles's villain, right, was the Prowler, which turned out to be Uncle Aaron. I'm sorry if you haven't seen it. I spoiled it for you. But the Prowler was again, the first antagonist in that movie, right?
Yeah.
But the Bible talks about the devil prowls around looking for someone to devour.
There you
All
go.
right.
There
So
you
it's
go.
like Miles Morales taking a leap of faith. The Prowler comes at me, I seek your face. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like
good.
We're starting to get there. And then got training from Peter to flee temptation. Okay.
Ooh.
If we look at the movie again, who did Miles get his original training from? Peter Parker. Okay. Yeah. But if we look in Peter, we look in First Peter, it tells us to flee temptation. Like literally, like I think it's literally like resist temptation. What is it? resist temptation and the devil flee from
Flee
you.
from you,
Or,
yes, yeah,
but it's
to
just
rest.
like,
Yeah.
we got to flee temptation. So again, if we look at the whole bar again, where it's just like Miles Morales, I'm taking a leap of faith. The proud come at me, I seek your face. Got training from Peter to flee temptation. Learn your word when I'm weak to strength.
That's so good.
The weak to strength was just like, I gotta wrap it up. But it's just like people don't like, people might see that as like, oh, that's a cool little like Miles Morales. But
that's
like,
crazy.
I'm really trying to tell you, I'm trying to weave like biblical
those
implications
are bars.
into like,
Those are literal bars.
yeah.
Like,
Some people might think like, that's. But I'm trying to tell you, like, I try to make every word matter as much as I can.
That's good.
So,
No. And not everyone appreciates the lyrics. I know this because there are sometimes where I'm sitting down and I'm conveying lyrics that I've wrote down to other people, and I'm like, oh, they're like, really? I kind of see what you were saying now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know people who are like that. For me, the fact that you drew I'm a picture guy too. The fact that you painted that out, I'm like, dude, he just literally like the Peter reference, double entendre on Peter.
Yeah.
Then there's like the Miles Morales, and then it's him jumping off the leap of faith. Like everything you do with your lyrics, and I noticed this even the songs that we cook. Your ability to paint a story while creating bars,
It's the Lord.
It's a gift. It's a gift, 100%. So,
Thank you, dog.
man, that's good. Let's get this team running.
Uncovered the LB that's covered in L's. A method is
pause. I'm sorry.
Look tired and going
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Because I'm not trying to gas myself up. Yeah. It's just like I don't ever get an explanation to like explain my lyrics to people. So this is like the one time I get to do it.
Genius.
This is the one time I get to do it.
Breakdown.
So I forgot what I said before the line, but when I said don't covet the LV that's covered in L's, like don't covet. So again, I'm trying to talk. Don't covet what like other people have, or don't covet like, oh man, this person got the nicest thing, like a Louis Vuitton bag.
Oh,
don't covet the LV is covered in L's, but like a Louis Vuitton bag is actually legitimately covered in L's.
That's true. That is true.
I'm trying to say like if you covet what other people have, if you're coveting the LV,
loss.
That's an L for you.
L,
but it's also literally covered with L's. So anyway. I forgot about that one.
You won't be getting any sponsorships from Louis Vuitton anytime soon.
It's okay.
It's good to know.
I don't use designer brands anything. So I'm wearing a self-made sweatshirt.
Hey, and we're gonna wrap up with that.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's get through the song though.
Glory siblings, spur up my siblings, take some initiative. We moving different, no longer see people as prophets of dividends. Reflect the kingdom till we bear resemblance. Sin made us banquet, we claimed to fall. So you made an entrance and paid it all. Hands to the heavens, we praise and all. Content and commission, you gave the call. Named exalted, 3 days exalted. Tell me of a greater love. Never will I promise. He clean me up, I'm polished. He clean me up, I'm polished. Washed in the blood, I'm spotless. Washed in the blood, just watch. Paid my debt and now I'm set free. Play my part until the end scenes. Clothed in righteousness, my scars and vice to show who changed my heart. It's priceless. Place my faith in God. The Christ, my life seems off on guard.
Took me a minute to really get the delay on that to sit right.
That beat switch.
Yeah, a little off speed on there. Wait for
but
it.
it's Mathew with 1 T.
That's my sister right there.
That's right.
Yeah, that's Avant-Garde. Make sure if y'all want to check it out. This is actually on every platform. This is the least comfortable I've ever felt listening to my music with someone else. When people play my music around me, I'm just like, turn that off.
Turn it off.
I just don't like it. I don't like it.
But dude, that's I like it's 3 levels. It's like it's art from obviously the standpoint of your composition of the whole song. It's art from the message. It's art from the double entendres, triple entendres. It's just the levels you have that you put into the writing. I think sometimes we as artists don't get enough credit. At least, again, we're speaking to the artists who really are making this their craft and really spend time honing their craft in every single area. That's songwriting, producing, and whatnot. Like the time it takes to put into it.
This took me months.
Because putting
months. I literally almost lost my mind. I feel like making this song.
I do. I remember
when I was mixing, I was like, bro, like I feel like I'm losing it because I'm just like, I think I need to just bring this up like three half of a decibel and carry the fifth, and it's
you
like,
get in your head.
What? Like
you get in your head. So some people just don't see that side of producing and songwriting. All of that, it's just it takes a lot. But when you get done with it, it's the greatest feeling. And so, but again, a beautiful reminder to live our lives in such a way that reflects Christ, but do it in the way that God has tasked and purposed each and every one of us, which is going to be new and fresh to different people who you encounter.
Fresh with the PH.
With a PH. Come on.
Fresh.
But yeah, man, Matthew, to close up this podcast, I want to just, kind of ask you the question, like, where do you think God's taking you this season?
Straight to the league. That's where he's taking me. I'm going to the league. I got a 10-day. I'm going to the league. The Mavs need me.
Come on, man. See, I'm gonna pick up the ball and go hoop a little bit. Let's see it. But no, I mean, 'cause, we were just talking about, obviously.
Can you see it on the camera?
Yeah, it's there. There you go. Yeah, a little
there?
faithful every day over here.
Yeah,
got my little, Faithful Breed logo here. So it's just funny that we're kind of wearing
Faithful
different brands, but it's faithful.
I felt when I was like, I'm gonna bring it. I just don't want him to think I'm copying him. I was like,
my second product line. You just didn't know yet.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
it's funny because my friend Jonathan roasted me yesterday when he saw it. He's like, every day is one word. And I said, well, actually, technically, I looked it up before I put it on the T-shirt. There's two uses. There's a singular every day,
obviously,
and there's also
every day.
And they both have different uses.
There you go.
I forgot what the explanation was between them, but it verified that I could do it this way. But yeah, faithful. So faithful every day. It's kind of the longer. It's like the extrapolated format of like this phrase that kind of came to my mind of like, I don't know whether to look at the camera or look at you. It's called like stay fed. And so FED stands for faithful every day. And so it's really just a mindset I'm trying to internalize. And I was like, for my own self, I'm gonna just throw it on a T-shirt so I can see it and be like, yep, I'm gonna keep myself accountable. Let's try to stay faithful every day.
Good.
And yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's just like a question that I keep asking myself, like, how can I be faithful to God today?
Good.
Sorry, I don't know why. I'm just full of air.
Very good, bro. Very good.
But yeah, no. So it's kind of just this new mindset that I've adopted that I kind of want to encourage other people to do, and I've been. Just working on some stuff to hopefully encourage other people, and hopefully it'll be ready for consumption soon, if Lord willing, But I just think it's a really transformative mindset of like no matter because I think the idea actually partially came from I was listening to this podcast and Jackie Hill Perry made a great point, and she was just like, you don't need to know all 66 books of the Bible to be faithful, and I was like. That's true. Sometimes we feel like we got to have a seminary degree before we can, follow Christ fully. And it's like, if you look at the early church, no, like they didn't have no seminary degree, but they were faithful, and the Lord used that. And so that's why it's like, I just want to be faithful in every season and every moment, and we'll see where the Lord takes that. I have no quality answer for you. I do hope to accomplish certain things, but at the end of the day. I know that's not the biggest thing that God wants to do with me is for me to accomplish certain feats or get certain things done. I think it's more of the work that he's trying to do in me. And then via that, have that, help out other people and him do a work in them. So not that he needs me, but vessel that's willing to be used. But yeah, I think that's where we're going. Where's God taking you, Kumi? That's I'm gonna turn it back on you.
To the league too.
To the league?
We're going to the league together. Hopefully, okay. I don't know. I'm a Clippers fan though. To be fair, right now.
That's crazy.
Follow my boy Russell Westbrook, throughout the league. So I mean, Russell was OKC back when I was living in Tulsa, and then he moved, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going where Russell's going.
Go with him.
But nah, man, I'm just joking. But nah, honestly, same thing, bro. I mean, Faithful Breed, as you know, I encourage my audience each and every podcast. That's right. The purpose is to serve God faithfully, no matter the circumstance, no matter the season. And really just like understand what that looks like as a Christian. Whoever I'm talking to, you can be believer, unbeliever, it doesn't matter. God for me is my lens. And so making that clear and verbalizing that and articulating that, I think it's something that every believer needs to be able to know how to do. And so I think it's a blessing in disguise for most people who come to the podcast who are maybe not accustomed to like sharing their beliefs or what their perspective are on things. And it might be different. But I think it gives people the opportunity to really learn that there's a reason why I do things I do. I just never had to verbalize it to people until now.
Yeah.
Right. And when we can have more of these conversations, what it's helped me do personally is find the areas of truth, the balance, and all kind of the nuances when it comes to our faith, and realizing that at the end of the day, our goal is just to be faithful to His Word. Faithful 100%. To the leading of the Spirit, and faithful to the call of God that He's given each and every one of us. And if we can be evident in that through how we love one another, right? How we praise God and worship Him in our day-to-day lives, I think that's all we need. And I've said it once before, but But again, the on the back of my hoodie, the verse is from Mathew 24:13. He who endures to the end will be saved. Jesus was obviously speaking.
Dope. Anyway,
it's a powerful statement, but obviously God was speaking to the end times and how there's going to be people who are going to be going astray, go left and right. But I think just that statement in and of itself, that he who endures, what does endurance look like? It's simply that faithfulness. It's it's not saying that I know all the answers, I have everything put together, but it's just saying, God, here's my life.
Yep.
Like, I ask you each and every day, help me to be faithful to the end, because there's times where I get to the end of myself, and me and my buddy had a conversation the other day when we were talking about the book of Job. Like, there's days where I get to the end of myself, whether the season I'm in is just beating me down, or my understanding of you is just so limited, or I fall and I sin, all these things that are so easy for me to get into a rut and lead me, honestly, right out of trusting you and having faith in you. Help me in those moments of my weakness, right? When I don't know who, I think it was Nicodemus, one of the disciples, who's, I have faith, but help me, or
Thomas?
I believe in you. Yeah, I think maybe it's Thomas. Yeah, I believe in you, but help my unbelief, right? Like those spaces where sometimes it's just like hard to trust God, hard to have faith. Help me to remain faithful even in those moments.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what the heart of this whole channel podcast is for. And I just want to really do that both in obviously every media endeavor, whether it's music, whether it's podcasting, videos, whatever it is just make that more evident and make God's name known.
100%,
right?
dude.
And know him more. So, Mathew, thank you.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to cut you off. Before you leave, before you hit me with the outro,
okay,
I just want to say this man has the sickest logo and merch. Show him the hat. I haven't even talked about the hat. The hat's tough,
right
man.
here, right here.
I don't know when that's dropping.
Hey, soon
I'm
enough,
a cop it.
Soon enough.
Y'all better cop it. I'm telling you, that's one of the toughest logos in the game. So I'll be seeing everyone in Dallas and beyond wearing that soon.
Hey,
that's all I want to say.
That. I'm believing for that in faith. I'm soon. I definitely want to have a little drop on the merch here soon.
Sure,
but right now I'm just repping it, getting people a taste. You know?
Yeah, give me a little something.
In the comments, let me know if it doesn't look that great. I'm not gonna be offended. Go ahead and tell me if you have any ideas, critiques. I might entertain it. But as of right now, I'm rocking with it.
Yeah.
My buddy over here co-signs it.
Let me stop. No. If you in the comments, if you're like it's not popping, you're whack. I'm sorry. That's good. I'm so sorry. You don't know what you're talking about if you're saying that. Don't. If that's your opinion, don't put it in the comments. Don't.
No,
I'm gonna find you.
Oh, Mathew, I love you, brother. Man, thank you again for hopping on this podcast.
Absolutely.
I deeply appreciate this time. Honor your points. Honor your heart, bro. If I can say overall everything in my tenure and relationship with you, you're someone who truly loves the Lord. And even on days where there's days we just sit down and we just talk and we're like, you're going through it, with whether it's X, Y, and Z, just seeing your faithfulness, number one, but your response in humility and saying, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to keep walking with you. I'm going to keep trusting you. I'm going to keep seeking your word. And I know you're doing something, even though I can't understand it. And that's sometimes as believers, we find ourselves in that spot a lot, right? I don't know what you're doing, Lord. I need some more clarity.
The title of my memoir. I don't know what you're doing, Lord, but I'm going to trust you anyway.
But that's what it is, It's the Job mentality. It's like, and then God hits you with the where were you? Like, where were you when I created the heavens and the earth? So you look at God, it's like, I really can't say anything back to you because at the end of the day, where was I? I was, who am I at the end of the day? But I know you're good. I know you're sovereign, God. And I just see that, again, in your actions. And I just want to know that, just let you know that God's proud of that, dude. So
Thank you.
Keep it up. And we know the drill.
What is the drill?
Comment, like, subscribe.
Hey, run it up. 100K likes, man. 100K likes. We're gonna fly one of y'all out to be on the podcast. I'm making you have promises.
He's making the promises. I am not. Yeah. So, with that being said, if there's anything in this conversation that you got value from, let me know in the comments. And as usual, we'll see you next time.
All right. Peace, y'all.
Peace.